All right, folks, welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. Barnes will be here shortly. As always, fashionably late, right? And I'm one half, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide, etc., etc., etc. All right, look, let's recap what happened here. All right. In a mission that was postponed for a couple of days due to weather, U.S. military forces under this is such a different command. It's really a stunning contrast, whether you support or you oppose this action, right? Military forces executed what was an amazing, flawless mission to go and get Nicolas Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela. All right. Venezuela, as we'll talk about a little bit more, is really run by a cartel. All right. He left after Maduro and his wife were captured and taken into custody in an operation that was obviously conducted using it was a joint operation with intelligence services. It's my understanding the CIA ran the show. I think it's also very clear while we give them full, I mean, the military Delta did an amazing job here. I think it's very obvious that Maduro was sold out. We'll learn the real story eventually, the full story eventually. But Venezuela is a massive country with very sophisticated ground and air defense systems, and yet they barely fired a shot. One of the aircrafts was hit in when they were inbound, but it remained operational, and nobody on the U.S. side was killed during this exercise. All right, so they grab Maduro, they grab his wife, they put them in custody, and they bring them back to stand trial in New York jurisdictions. He's being held at the Correctional Detention Center in Brooklyn, which is not the MCC where Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, allegedly. But it's still in a jurisdiction that is a little bit questionable as to why he wasn't indicted, for instance, in Florida or another jurisdiction where the likelihood of something going wrong or embarrassing the administration would have been a lot less. But nonetheless, here we are. And I'll explain that probably more in depth, right? When Robert gets on. He's the lawyer, but Robert and I have been talking about this for years. There are federal jurisdictions in this country that are corrupted from judge to jury, ideologically, up and down. They're fanatics, and they do things purely for political reasons. They, are not the best place to have brought Maduro, but he was indicted there. Why the administration wouldn't have indicted him somewhere else, I don't know. He is indicted on drug trafficking charges. Just so everyone fully understands the facts here. He is not indicted for election fraud. He hasn't been interrogated over it, and it is my understanding that the Justice Department really has no interest in doing that. All right, so a lot of people are like, he's going to flip with the Smartomatic and this and that. I have asked, and my mind is open, but I have asked for them to share the evidence of what they're talking about. And there are these relationships that are very clear. And since 2004 and in 06, when they took over Chicago, for instance, and took it over, that's when they implemented those systems for the first time. There was bipartisan concern over these machines, and it disappeared when it seemed to begin to benefit Democrats, and it only became an issue on the Republican side. So my mind is completely open to that. However, as of right now, as I know, I have never been given that information. I'm happy to look at it, but certain people that have, are not really qualified to tell you whether or not those systems were used to what's the word? I mean, steal elections. I mean, that's a simple way to put it. So we're not going to talk a whole hell of a lot about that. Look, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but there'll be an interview tonight, which I think will be a constructive interview on Tucker Carlson. That's all I'm going to say, because I do think that there is Barnes can talk about the law of all this and everything, and we have differing views on international law. I'm a realist through and through, and international law was the basis for the Nuremberg trials, for instance, and all of that. But to me, international law has no teeth. What there really is the balance of power, the international state of anarchy, and the balance of power. And we measure that power in relative terms. And if the U.S. in its own hemisphere wants to do something, there's really nobody that can stop them. All right. So I do think, because I'm looking at this through, as always, trying to look at it through the lenses of the people that we're talking to, because we are polling a lot of this. Some people threw out flash polls. We're going to go over this. We're choosing not to do flash polls. We're choosing to do a survey the way that it's supposed to be done, or we all have different standards, and I have my own. So I can tell you some of those results already and where they're coming from, what people are saying. And I do think there's a debate. With that all said, and with that all in mind, I do think there is a debate about limited imperialism being part of the America First platform, right? So, Mike Cernovich is a great example of this. Who's going to use the oil? I mean, if we don't take it, then who's going to take it, right? So I do think that's it. I just think the problem with that argument right now is being expressed by people we're interviewing right now, which is very simple. When the Monroe Doctrine was being implemented, we were in a much better place as a country. The middle class is taking a beating, and they wanted to start the new year with something that, came from the top, came from the White House, that let them know, hey, we understood we got off track last year, and we want to get back on track, and we want to prioritize you, healthcare, other affordability issues, et cetera, et cetera. So when the president goes to the microphone and says, and I see Barnes is here now, I'll bring him in a second. When the president goes to the microphone and says, we're going to have to completely rebuild Venezuela's infrastructure, I will tell you immediately, people said to us, what about our infrastructure? Okay, so you guys who support the president, no matter what he does, and you have an ever-evolving definition of what America First is, you don't realize why you got your asses kicked in 2025. You still haven't learned your lesson, right? So the voters, if you don't shape up really quickly, are going to teach you a very painful lesson next November. All right, because right now you're down by 5 on the generic ballot, and it's much, much uglier when we look at certain things, which I'm going to stop there and bring on Barnes. So the idea, Robert, and welcome as always, brother. I think what I'm trying to convey to people is that, outside of people who play politics on X, right? They're not really in this world. They just give their takes. They don't understand how Washington works. And for some reason, either they're dishonest or they're incapable. Maybe they're just stupid. I don't know. But they don't understand that you can't get entangled in foreign stuff and still expect a robust domestic agenda. Washington doesn't work that way. Presidents for decades have lamented this problem. I mean, Woodrow Wilson had a massive domestic agenda that he could never get done because of World War I. I mean, this has been a problem for a while and has only gotten worse with the increase of the national security state. So it's Washington is either dedicated to the domestic agenda, which is for people, or it's dedicated for the foreign agenda that the blob wants. When Democrats are in power, they take advantage and use their political capital on their domestic agenda, and they pass big, sweeping pieces of legislation that change the very nature of the relationship between the individual and the state. Obamacare is a great example. Even the so-called Inflation Reduction Act did that as well. You just don't know, people, because you don't know what was in it, right? So they don't waste the beginning of their presidencies on foreign entanglements if they don't have to. This is why the left is winning, because the right continues to do this to themselves instead of making big sweeping changes. Why does legislation matter, Robert? Why let me just ask a very simple question before I throw it to you. Why does legislation matter? Not executive actions, right? What's the difference?
Permanence, basically.
That's it. It's permanence. It is almost impossible to repeal something. This is why Republicans failed to repeal the Affordable Care Act, despite having a 7-year campaign promise to do so. And then when 2018 came around and they got their asses kicked, which, by the way, we're fighting with some of the very same idiots who did this back then. In 2018, when our polling showed healthcare rising as an issue, got into the number 3. I mean, I was out there going, oh, you just lost your lead on the generic ballot. This isn't going well. You have to commit to the promises you made. You have to repeal this bill. You have to address rising cost of healthcare. They didn't. They failed, and voters punished them for it. And by the way, now here we are, almost a decade later, like the better part of a decade later, going into another midterm cycle. Healthcare is again in the top 3. Every top 3 issue is a domestic issue. So my only thing is, I do think there's argument, Robert, that, taking the oil. I mean, I myself am for limited imperialism. I want Greenland. I want Greenland because I want space. I want all of it. I want it all. I want Trump. I want disclosure. I want a base on the moon. I want to go to Mars. I want it all. And we need Greenland to do it. So I want to take Greenland. I don't want to ask for it. Just take it. What the fuck are you going to do? Nothing. You can do nothing, right? And I know it's international law. I'll hear you on that argument, but they can do nothing. They can suck the fat one. There's nothing they can do to stop us. So I mean, I get that. There's arguments for limited imperialism. The problem is the political viability of these things and using political capital on rebuilding Venezuela. Who's still in charge in Venezuela right now?
Yeah, the Maduro, the Chavista regime.
Come on. So, well, the oil is flowing from Chevron alone. There's a lot more. I think. Let me just ask you this, and I'll ask you, give you your opening thoughts, like I did. But I mean, are we prematurely celebrating here?
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean, isn't that the question you could ask about every single military intervention since the end of World War II? So some opening thoughts. So we're mostly going to focus here on the politics of the Venezuelan military intervention. The law of it broke down with Viva Frei last night on the Law for the People Sunday show and Viva Frei show. You can find the legal analysis there. I'll have some of the policy debates tonight with Nick Rekieta, Law at around 11 p.m. Eastern time. He's occasionally been known to dance to the Bolivian marching band in the past. But has a libertarian perspective, but also has shares some of your perspective on resource realism. But here we're going to focus on the politics of it because it's clear, unfortunately, once again, the people in Washington, the people in the Trump administration, many of the people in the Republican Party, many of the political consultants, many of the influencers and political commentators were not being taken in by QAnon slop like Alex Jones sadly is again.
Oh, my God.
You would have thought he would have learned the lesson last time, but no.
You would have thought.
They're taking him down that primrose path one more time. God bless it. I keep trying to warn him. When Lindsey Graham is smiling, you probably shouldn't be when it comes to foreign policy. But we're going to break down what people don't understand is there's been a generational shift. Like Trump, Vance, I think, kind of gets it, but I don't think gets it enough. But he's one of the only people he's even close to getting it. But Hegseth doesn't get it. Trump doesn't get it. Susie Wiles, who, by the way, lobbied for people who are going to get rich off of this. Just FYI. Yeah. We have some inside secret footage, in fact, of Paul Singer, the big donor, celebrating when he found out about the Maduro capture and Venezuelan invasion. But we're going to break down for you the politics of this. Now, to some degree, the law and the policy will ultimately impact the politics, but it's not the driving factor. What the number one thing, if you take away anything, is there has been a generational shift. Younger Gen Xers, millennials and Zoomers do see machismo, see FAFO, bro, as signs of stupidity, as signs of dangerousness, as something to mock and make fun of. And it's something that does not address their concerns.
Yeah,
that's why whether you're looking at the Washington Post poll, the YouGov poll, other polls that are out there, American Conservative was out there in the field.
Let me pop one up. Here's Go ahead, keep talking. I'll just show. Yeah,
just the young voters, like the people that you would think are real machismo, the kind of people that this would appeal to. It doesn't. Only boomercons like this. This is boomercon slop. Just like everything else that with the CIA running our foreign policy for the last 6 months is boomercon slop. Young voters have no interest in this. So, I think Trump and Vance and those guys really think, or at least Hegseth, really thinks FAFO, man. That sounds cool, man. That's like Dan Bongino, bro. No, you look like an idiot boomercon loser. You look like a frat boy conservative caricature. You look like something South Park makes fun of. Richard and I explained this before the Iran strikes. We were shocked because we expected the first reaction to be through the roof positive because that has always been the American polling reaction has been at the peak of the conflict. His peak popularity of a conflict is at the beginning during the rally around the flag. Yeah. But what did we see? We saw the Iran strikes weren't even popular right at the peak of them. And we're like, man, that's a bad sign. This is just going to go all downhill from there. Here, the Venezuelan strikes are already unpopular.
Yeah.
Already unpopular, despite the massive social media campaign with fake Venezuelans all celebrating and cheer in the streets,
Just so
all that garbage.
Just so people know what you're talking about. I mean, the right, what I saw over 48 hours, not even, but what I saw, Robert, reminded me of Democrats, like openly sharing fake stuff, old stuff. It was either old videos. The one that got me is like, I knew immediately, because like the monument is a very like recognizable, the monument in Buenos Aires, Argentina is a very recognizable monument. And Alex Jones and others shared this thing from Leading Report or whatever it was. Like there's these two accounts that the right like retweets all the time, including like elected members of Congress and in the White House. They retweet this guy, and whoever's running it is just total disinformation. Nobody was celebrating in the streets in Venezuela. Let me just put an end to this right now. Nobody was celebrating. You can't, because there is an active roundup going on. You can't go out and celebrate in the streets. You'll be charged with an act of terrorism, and you will spend 10 to 15 years in a Venezuelan prison. You were sharing the slop. You were deceived, and then being after people, some of them that I respect, Robert, I told them privately, dude, you're sharing disinformation. That is not cool. Like I'm literally losing respect for you. Like, stop doing it. They kept doing it. So they knew they were. This was a direct
friends of ours. I mean, Benny Johnson was sharing this garbage. The Nick Shirley was sharing this garbage. And even when they got called on it, even when they got community noted on it, they were sharing AI. Wall Street Mavs was sharing AI. Wall Street A. All Wall Street A. Like, this is garbage. This is ridiculous. There has been no massive uprising in Venezuela. There has been no massive support. In fact, just the opposite. The Chavez regime is more in control than arguably ever. And not only that, they now have a rallying cry they didn't used to have, because now they are standing up to Yankee imperialismo and the Uncle Sam. You will not come and rule over us. Cuba has lived off this politically for about almost 60 years. So this was, and anybody who's ever seen the political history could see this coming. Just amazed. But yeah, the degree to which the boomer, you're going to see a lot of fake influencers, people that were like, oh, I love Trump because there's no new wars and no regime change. Say, no, I was always like Matt Walsh. I was always like Jared at
Will Chamberlain,
Steven Crowder. Oh no, actually, I'm for a complete full-blown empire around the world. And it's as Baris was saying, there's arguments for certain kinds of resource realism. It's not politically popular. It's not anymore. That ship has sailed.
Without a vision, like, I knew they were going to do it. I did know that this was going to happen. And I got to tell you, it was like 2 weeks of saying, cut the narco nonsense. Like, nobody believes it's for drugs. Just cut, like, don't do that, right? Not only does he go to the microphone and do that, Robert, but he actually says fentanyl. And I know people in the White House who were like, ugh, because it's cocaine. First of all, it's not even heroin. Heroin is Mexico, okay? But I mean, that's number one. And the stats that he gave were heroin related stats. So like, it was just, the message is bad. And if you're gonna do it, the advice was really focus on the fact that they stole our oil years ago, and the Bushes were too much pansies, and they were actually too entangled with other foreign Middle Eastern ventures to do anything about it. And if you want to say they stole our oil, I'm going to give you $1 per gallon gasoline, we're taking our oil back, that's different. You could even try to sell that. This was a jumbled up message that made no sense. And only if you're willing to like twist yourself in intellectual and dishonest pretzels could you try to justify it. Like, that's it, which people did. And they did.
And you get, I mean, so a lot of people in there want the policy, support the policy. It's fine if you support the policy. I have reasons to be skeptical, but that's not what we're here for. We're talking about the politics of it. Quit lying to yourself that this is popular. Quit pretending the Fox News audience is the majority of America. It's not. So the poll data we have up right now shows after the most analogous action like this was when we went in to take out Noriega.
Which everybody cited as why we should. Oh, well, Reagan did it. Okay. Well, as if these were like Panama and others were like wise policy decisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we'll
Like,
get to that. I mean, Poppy Bush. But so when Poppy Bush went in and took Noriega, and this was with, I mean, Reagan started it, but Poppy Bush finished it off. And this was with, explosions and known more casualties than here, with U.S. troops still on the ground.
Yeah.
The approval was universal across all, amongst the base. It was in the 90s, strong approval. In the 90s, the overall approval rating was in the 80s across all polling survey. So this gives you the barometer, the benchmark, to understand how radically American politics has shifted on the topic of foreign interventions. Everybody in the White House, Susie Wiles has a hairdo from the 1980s because she still lives in the 1980s. And he was busy lobbying for some of the people that are going to get rich off of this, by the way. I mean, they're playing into the caricature of Trump. They're playing into that these are cartoon, uber machismo, macho, billionaire-driven, oligarch-driven, big oil, war is a racket-driven caricature. And you can say that's a wrong caricature. It's what people are going to believe because of their own poor messaging. But independent of that, what they don't understand is, if I was in the White House, I would take this as a signal. Don't get further involved in Venezuela. And by God, don't repeat it in Colombia and Mexico and Cuba. Because if you go in with an almost surgical operation, that was probably with a lot of inside help.
Somebody had to give him up, Robert. Yeah. Give me a break.
No question about that.
It's a tremendous job by the military, but you don't just fly into Venezuela without right.
They did their job. Now there'll probably be the civilian casualties will probably end up being 10 times higher than what's being reported. That's just because that happens every single time.
Did they say 20 or 40 civilians?
Yeah, it was like 40. It's probably going to be 400, something like that by the time they count them all. That happened in Panama. They kept pretending that there was nobody dead. Panamanians kept finding mass graves where we had dumped all the bodies. And they're like, what?
Also rally around the flag. That's what you're looking at, folks, for people who may be listening to the podcast. Robert has said 80%. Well, but it was 82 by January of 90. It started 80, ticked down a little bit to 79. And then when conflict rose and all this happened and there were more casualties, there was fighting going on, it actually ticked up a little bit to 82% approve. It was like universal support. And that's a rally around the flag effect compared now to, and I'm going to share the Washington Post poll, which I grabbed. We had YouGov, you sent over YouGov too, but we're actually really close to these guys, which I'll tell you guys in a second. But this breakdown by party with the Washington Post is very important. What you're seeing, this is overall, the number is 40 approve, 40 disapprove. So it's negative plus 2, disapprove plus 2 in the Washington Post poll. But
just for context for everybody out there, that's less than half of what it was after Poppy Bush took Noriega.
Yes, yeah.
And it is the lowest level of approval right after a successful military intervention in American polling history. Yeah. So everybody in Washington who thinks this is a great idea, let's double down on Venezuela. Let's also add Colombia. Let's also add Mexico. Let's also add Cuba, that are whispering this as we speak to Trump in the White House.
And don't forget Iran. Don't forget
Iran.
This
is already a disaster.
And look, this could be better, guys. I think because again, we're trying to focus on the politics of this, not the wiseness or whether it's philosophical.
There's people in the chat. They're all whining and crying, and all the rest. You can love the policy. The politics is not popular. Politics is not popular. Get that through your thick head. You do not represent the normie. The normie says, no, thank you. America first doesn't mean we America number one. It means Americans being paid attention to first. It means you use your political capital on improving the well-being of the American people. I can't even believe he said it. Not make Venezuela great again. That was not the 2024 winning campaign.
And this is what people aren't understanding. If the voter felt that the administration and the Republican majority was sufficiently focused on them, they could absolutely do this. They could. And I could have killed Maduro and left his body right there, dead, and where it stood. And his wife, probably. I mean, but when people are unhappy and they think that you're not caring about them, which they do, And this is what, like, this isn't up for debate. All right. This idea of like, oh, Trump isn't too focused on foreign affairs. It doesn't matter what you think. The American, you are in a small majority. I mean, a small minority. You are within 18% of the country right now, according to our polling. 56%, which is the high for this tracker we've been doing since what, Iran? 56% say that he is too focused on foreign affairs. All right. So you can say, but this is going to make their lives better with the gas. But he didn't say that. He didn't say that. It's a president's job to sell a military action to the public. George Bush did it when the first Gulf War. He did a great job with a whole lot of propaganda about throwing babies out of incubators and shit, but he did it. George W. Bush, he did it. And it was extremely popular in the beginning. And 3,000 people, I mean, who pointed this out? It might have been Steve Kornacki. He basically said, like, this is more unpopular than where it was when the Iraq War started to go south. And that's after 3,000 Americans lost their lives in a domestic terror attack of historic proportions. So like it's not a good place to start. This should have been, I actually thought, like, if you worded the question like, Robert, Maduro's a narco terrorist, dictator of Venezuela. Do you approve or disapprove that we scooped him up and took? They know it means regime change. And the next thing they're thinking is, oh my God, he's going to spend the next year building Venezuela. Like, it doesn't matter if that happens or not. The old regime is still in power. Like, I think honestly, the right has made a huge mistake, and they've made a lot of mistakes, but it all stems from this one very big mistake that Democrats had been making until the Trump era and all through the Trump era until now. And that is, you think the American public is stupid. Just admit it. You never believed it. You never believed any of it. You think the American public is stupid, and you're mad at them now for what? Believing what you sold them? That's what you're really mad at. So when they
see people in the chat that represent these boomer con losers, they're like, oh, it's only unpopular with leftists.
No,
you could make that argument 20 years ago. Not anymore.
It's not.
Almost all independents oppose it. The large portions. I mean, you cannot. We can show some of the age disparities. Less than 19% of young people are on board. You got the most. You have 25 to 30%. That's somewhat approved. For only 14% strong, and even among seniors, you're only getting a third. So basically, you're boomercon. All these people that live in their boomercon world, you don't understand, Bart. I just watched Fox News, and they told me it was real popular. You must be making this up. Da, 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 da.
Yeah,
you're losers, and you're going to keep losing because you deserve to lose. There's been a seismic shift. When Gen Xers, younger Gen Xers, millennials and Zoomers see this, they see garbage. They see something that doesn't benefit them. They see another likely quagmire that drags in our resources, that puts Americans unnecessarily at risk. It doesn't matter whether you think that's what's going to happen or not. It doesn't matter whether you think it's the greatest policy or not.
You're missing that.
This is what voters have already determined. So wake up. Quit living in your fantasy land. Quit pretending, oh, all the polls must be fake, and everybody who disagrees with me must be fake. No, pal. You're the one that's fake. You're the one that doesn't understand that this seismic Trump got elected to stop this. This is the second big problem. The first big problem is foreign intervention, foreign focus, as Baris, Richard, and Mark over at Rasmussen have been hammering it. Don't have foreign news dominate the news associated with you. That's a disaster, number one, no matter what. Number two, there's been a seismic generational shift that is no longer like some of it was fascinating. You dig into some of they even asked people stuff like, do you think America should be righting these horrible wrongs around the world, or do you think we shouldn't be involved at all? And the plurality sentiment was we shouldn't. Yeah, should the U.S. be a good neighbor and just stay out, or should the U.S. intervene because we got to right some flagrant wrongdoings? Flagrant wrongdoings gets 27% support. Removing a commie gets even less support. Quit pretending you have public support that you do not have.
We did this with looks like that's a duplicate, so I can get rid of it. We did this with the Middle East as well, where we asked people flatly, what do you think the U.S. policy should be after the Iran strikes? We did this, if you guys remember, and we asked it 2 or 3 times after, just to make sure, it was people saying it was response bias. Yeah, it was response bias at that time favoring your position. And that's how bad it was. It was always going to go downhill from there. That's what they just didn't understand. But even in the Middle East, Robert, the vast majority of people, only about 24% said that we should be prepared to use military force to affect our agenda, our will in the Middle East. The rest of them either chose diplomatic only or no role at all. There was actually slightly more people who said we should have no role in the Middle East at all than people who said that there should be military action when it's needed, even to stop nuclear weapons programs. That's how we worded it. So like,
and for those in the chat living in their little fantasy land, everybody else is wrong, I'm really smart. Everybody else is stupid, I'm really smart.
Just debating numbers.
Please send me your contact information. I'd love to wager you because you probably qualify to ride the short bus to school. But who I try to avoid wagering against. But taking your money is deserved. It's necessary. You're obviously a bad custodian of your own capital if you think some of these idiotic. And go back. Remember the crap we took when we said this Iranian strikes popularity is peak. Is going to be right afterward. Then it's going to start to go down. And we said Israel's going to start to be a political pariah. Yep. Everyone's like, oh, you guys are made up. You got
and they still haven't admitted that's why they lost every election in 2025. Every single competitive election. Anything that was above, anything that was below, like R plus 22, was in danger of being lost. Republicans, by the way, today that's it. All of the offices that they lost in Pennsylvania now shift to the Democrats. Will take offices today. Local elections all over the state of Pennsylvania. That's what it wasn't just Virginia and blue states voting blue. You got your asses kicked by historic margins. And I was hired by many, I'm not going to say it, but many of the GOP county committees asking what went wrong in Virginia. It wasn't just the government shutdown. People said Epstein was huge. That actually was number one. Epstein is the reason they didn't vote. It just that made Trump look like a fraud.
About that. Yeah, that's a non-issue.
Nobody cared about Epstein. Well, they
Fox
know
News,
that's true.
Yeah, Fox News told me it was irrelevant. No. I mean, these boom. This is so you can even see from the live chat. It's the delusional insanity of the kind of people in the live chat that is dominating Washington. That is why Trump thought this would be popular. It's why Vance probably thought it would be popular. It's why the whole administration thought it would be popular when it's already unpopular at the peak of one of the easiest military or best, how you want to phrase it. A thing that was a military huge success by military terms is already unpopular. Already. And we've been screaming at people, the new generation don't want any more focus on foreign wars. You could wage the holiest war in the history of man, and they would still be upset with you. Because
you deal with their shit. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, if you deal with their inheritance being squandered away, if you deal with that first, there was a way to positively spin this, and they didn't do it. They chose not to do it. And I'll just tell you guys right now, I mean, because they know they went in another direction. They stole our oil, we're taking it back, and the proceeds of the oil will be used to pay down the U.S. national debt. That's it. And by the way, we're not building, we're not running Venezuela.
The Lincoln Project love this. They're cheering it. Lindsey Graham is cheering it.
The Bushes, the Rothschilds, they love it.
The Rothschilds are cheering it. Yeah. The neocons. Why are all like someone saying,
let's do this.
The left agrees with you. I was like, you know what's even worse? The neocons agree with you guys. That's even worse. So here is a inside video of Paul Singer, who, by the way, owns almost all the debt Venezuela owes. Yep. Paul Singer, who, by the way, tried to sabotage Trump, never Trump, for 10 years. And then paid a bunch of money in the 2024 campaign right around the time he bought Venezuela's debt, the debt that Venezuela owes others. And my guess is the whole plan is they're going to turn on enough. The oil will never come to reduce U.S. prices because Venezuelan oil is in a disaster. Trump will use the excuse of removing Maduro to loosen the sanctions on Venezuela that will, in time, with oil negotiations, that will in turn make sure Venezuela pays Paul Singer billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's what this conflict is. That is my best guess. And here's a little look at Paul Singer celebrating after he heard Maduro had been captured and the military regime change was on.
Hands up! Heads up. Here's another one. And another one. Yeet. Why you all in my ear? Talking a whole bunch of shit that I ain't trying to hear. Get back, motherfucker. Y'all know me like that. Get back, motherfucker. Y'all know me like that.
I can't do it anymore, Robert. I just can't, man. I can't watch it, brother.
Yeah, but he kind of even looks like Les Grossman, by the way. The character from the there, and of course, no shock, by the way. Paul Singer is a heavy Israel guy, big Israeli firster. This is why he didn't trust Trump in the first 10 years, and now Trump's doing special favors for him. It's good. It's I think a poor look, but if the reality.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just overarching, take home. Americans interpreted America first as our needs are going to be paid attention to, not a bunch of foreign affairs. That's how they interpret it. You might disagree with their interpretation. Doesn't matter, because it's what they believe. And they see this administration caring about everybody except America first. And that is killing them in the polls. And if they continue down this path, they are going to be on the George W. Bush 2006 path. I mean, lose the House, lose the Senate, lose a bunch of governorships, lose some state legislatures, and then face impeachment after impeachment after impeachment after impeachment for the next 2 years. Unless what Richard and I have been warning about is get off this foreign war. If you want to do this in a year, 2 years, whatever. Yeah. Do not do it right now, because it's bleeding politically.
Because, I mean, the thing is, Robert, the thing with this is that they can wait. Like, they can wait. None of this is like imminent. It was the same thing with the strikes in Iran. That was not imminent. The big, beautiful bill was being held over his head until he agreed to do something. They were blackmailing him in order to, get their strikes. He wanted a commitment that he would do something. Trump is not the kind of guy you want to try to blackmail like that. But he did realize that, he's got a bunch of neocons. He's got a bunch of people who really represent Israel in the United States Senate. And he had to do something, right? But then after that happened, the entire domestic agenda came ground to a halt. And then we had the government shutdown, the longest in history. Nothing got done, right? So I'm going to say this again until people get it through their heads. Washington cannot walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. They can't do it. Whether you want to believe they can or not is whatever. You either get the blobs agenda, which makes people like Paul Singer and others rich, because that's what it's about, and oil companies richer. You either want to do that or you get your agenda. They could have just given the American public their agenda for that first year, and then they would have sufficiently felt like Trump was focused on them, and the Republicans were focused. Here's the thing. Trump, it doesn't matter if Trump's approval rating gets a huge bump. It doesn't even matter. The approval rating for Trump is not impacting the generic ballot, which I'm going to show people in a second. Here's what they really need, because this is the problem. I mean, do I have to? I think I do.
Yeah, I'll have to. People had asked about the YouGov, Washington Post, and the American Conservatives also, and then Quinnipiac. And there's a range of polled. Richard himself is polling on this.
I'm polling it right now.
What you're seeing in that data is showing up in Richard's data.
Actually,
just as well.
Close. It's about a third, depending, because we're asking a series of questions, which you guys will see. All right. 2 of which came right out of Donald Trump's mouth. All right. So, I mean, this is what he said, the next steps. All right. And whether or not they think that this is what they should be focusing on or not. It's not good, guys. It's not positive. This is not good. All right. And by the way, it should be. Even the simple question of do you support, the military flawlessly, executed this mission to seize and arrest and detain Nicolas Maduro and his wife, who is under indictment for drug trafficking. I mean, you couldn't give a better version of the damn question, guys. And people are wondering, it's not, they're wondering, even that's not doing good, but they're wondering like what comes next. That's really what it comes down to. And they have seen this story before, where there becomes these like interventions, these entanglements, regime change. I mean, this is by definition regime change. It doesn't matter if there was a big prolonged war, which, by the way, you're prematurely celebrating. There won't be one. The woman who is in power right now, rounding up people who she suspects of being sympathetic to the United States or even helping the United States with this effort, they're going to be executed, right or wrong. They're going to be killed. And you have no problems with that whatsoever. She is still in power with the cartels. And for all of you people who think this is about Smartomatic and about Dominion, let me explain something to you. She is the daughter of the evil genius who that entire clique thinks is in charge of the election fraud scheme. So we took Maduro and left the evil genius that did it and his daughter, who now assumes the presidency with Maduro gone. You will have to figure out how you're going to get rid of them. I know what the administration's plan is. And again, we're not trying to even debate this, whether this is smart policy or not. This is like what people think. The Trump administration thinks they're going to use the leverage. I heard Rubio say it over the weekend. They're going to use the leverage with the oil to basically get a deal, which is them stepping down or them maybe partner governing it. I have my own idea on where to go from here, and I will share it with them at the end of the week. But, I'm not going to just blurt it out here for everybody to hear. But there is a better way to move forward. But you're going to have to bankrupt them totally and have them basically gutted. You're going to have to get them in such a bad position. The military turns on them and hands them over. The problem is, though, it's not that simple. It's not, because the guy, again, that we left there, he's really smart. And a lot of people owe him a lot of favors. A lot of our own leaders are afraid of him because he is the master of blackmail and they are compromised. This is a serious dude. All right. But in any event, biggest problem of it all is what I'm seeing, and what we can show you in the Washington Post poll real quick again, is that the Washington Post is at 26. We're more like at 33. We're seeing about a third of the Republican coalition fractured off on this totally. And the problem with it is who they are. You need these people to come out and vote. The independents in that 42%, everyone misinterprets what MAGA is. MAGA is not Republican, and Republican does not equal MAGA. There are a ton in that, that Democratic bar right there that is included in MAGA. They're not 20% of the Democratic Party, but it all adds up. There are independents, and Bannon and I call them MAGA indies, MAGA independents, right? They almost never vote. They'll vote for Trump. They voted for Trump. They voted for America First. They don't like it. These are the ones who are unhappy. They're younger. You need these people to come out because older seniors with high propensity vote history are voting more and more Democrat every election. They're also getting, just by nature of generational shifts, they're getting like what used to be a 65-year-old plus senior demographic is getting more and more educated because these are aging liberals who have advanced degrees. And that's just, remember the everyone go to college, fest? For 30 years we had in this country, starting in the 90s, they're all aging now. They all went to college. And so the older this demographic gets, you're not going to be able to rely on that senior boomer vote. The boomers themselves are getting more liberal, okay? You need these younger people to come out, and they're not. And so your enthusiasm problem is exacerbating your overall issue. When you get to the ballot box, it's not going to, it's at this point, Robert, it's much more likely that Republicans underperform their generic ballot than overperform it, like we have seen them do in the past. Why? Because things like this are demotivating people. All right. I mean, this is disaffection if you have ever seen it. Here is the last generic ballot that we published at the end of the year. I'm going to just show people really quick. How many times we have told people this is the top is without leaners, below is with leaners. You can see overall when we lean people, Democrats have almost about a 5-point lead on the generic ballot, but look at certain to vote, 52 to 43. It's not really 5. It's more like 9, because when we all get closer to the election, we'll tighten our likely voter screens. That's what pollsters do. So it'll become a more whittled down electorate of who we project is actually going to vote. The likely to vote Republicans are the only ones are leading on that. They're leading 47 to 39. But this is, if the overall sample of likely voters, right, includes likely and certain, likely will be, when we get closer to the election, somewhere around 15%. That's it. The certain to vote will be around 85%. All right. And I'm not going to go give away like secret sauce shit here, Robert, but you know how this goes. Extremely enthusiastic is really the only metric that matters. Very it's not that it's meaningless, but it won't have as much of an impact on who actually turns out to vote than that extremely indicator. Extremely is also Democrat +9, 52 to 43. Even the very enthusiastic is still Democrat, 46 to 44. And that's without leaners again. If you look, it's 49 to 47 and then 53 to 44 for extremely. This is the making, that's disaffection. That's called disaffection. That is textbook. You have a lot of people in your coalition who are disaffected. That's why you're suffering like this. And then, honestly, I mean, Robert, it's also a telltale sign of a polling miss. Because, I mean, we've seen this. It benefited Trump so many times in 2020. A lot of those, like the New York Times and ABC, some of these others that have ridiculous results in 2020, their big problem was that they were casting this huge net, calling it likely voter, and that was it. And Trump's base was way more enthusiastic than Biden's base. So he was able to outperform the polls based on that and other things. But that was a huge, and we knew that. We told people leading up to 2020, look at the extremely enthusiastic number. Trump is clobbering him by 10 points. It will tighten. There's going to be a polling miss. It's going to happen. And we can go through every demographics, like education, by age. It is very bad for you. It's like the younger voters that supported Donald Trump in 2024 are the most likely to say they don't want to vote. So, I mean, it's and the entire point of the first year in the administration was to solidify these people as part of your coalition. I mean, that's
maybe pull up Life of Brian's chat as an exemplar of what we're talking about. So a lot of what I would call new to the Republican Party MAGA, right? Because there was a portion of MAGA.
Life of Brian, you saying?
Yeah, Life of Brian. Yeah. Yeah, he goes, hey, Barnes, what's up with if, unless, bad luck? Trump is a neocon, a liar, a fraud, as much an enemy as Graham and left. I have received tons of these from people.
Yeah,
this is how a good portion of the Trump base that the GOP needed to reconstruct and realign the country believes. There's a bunch of these people, and you might want to ignore them. You might want to pretend they don't exist. Good luck getting your ass kicked. Because that's what you're asking for. You're asking to get crushed, humiliated, defeated, wiped out.
Yeah.
These voters are done with the wars. And so, as Richard and I have tried to explain multiple times, politics is a game of math. When you look at any policy or issue or personality or candidate, however it is, look at how many people are we going to add on the plus side of the ledger? How many are we going to minus on the negative side of the ledger?
Yep.
And we're looking at, as Richard and I have tried to explain multiple times as well, two factors, persuasion and motivation. Persuasion is of that independent voter that says they're not aligned with either party. Richard's been tracking this group as well as anybody, big on food freedom, financial freedom, medical freedom, political freedom, all those issues. People that were big. The reason why Trump won the democracy rule of law vote in 2024 is they wanted accountability on COVID, accountability on the election. Yes. By the way, there will be no, contrary to what Alex Jones is saying, Patrick Byrne, others are saying, there will be no evidence that points to the 2020 election coming out of the Maduro prosecution. None, zero, zilch, zunka, nada. I guarantee it. I'd bet the bank on
I have asked them over and over and over. If it's there, show it to me. If you want me on board with you, show it to me. Don't tell me about this one's connection with this company. Everyone's connected to bad companies. Everybody's corrupt in this industry. You're not proving to me that they actually did anything. But look at what Patrick Byrne said. How many years has Patrick Byrne spent as an election expert? Don't tell me my business. Show me
Patrick
you're
Byrne
talking
owes
about
a bunch of money to Hunter Biden because he didn't even try to defend himself against Hunter Biden. That Patrick Byrne has zero credibility. Zero, zilch, zunka, nada. So putting that aside, so I think some people think these wonderful things will happen when the 2020 election will be exposed, the Democratic Party NGO machine will be exposed, and this is a secret 4D chess QAnon plan to do. I don't believe any of that. The independent of that, it wouldn't even matter if that was the case. Because the problem is what we've been identifying is the group of voters they need to persuade are these independent voters that say they're not aligned with either party. And then the second is the group they need to motivate. And these are a combination of independent voters and low propensity, loosely aligned Republicans. The fact that he doesn't have 95 plus percent.
Think the Ross Perot coalition, guys. Think about it like the Ross Perot coalition.
Who, by the way, what was his 1992 campaign? What was one of his slogans in 1992? What did he say that now is back on the table again? One of his key parts of the Ross Perot platform: no blood for oil.
Yeah, no blood for oil. And look, if you had Congress, which I was going to say before, if you have Congress go in and say, look, the oil, we're going to pass a bill, Trump's going to sign it, and he's going to do it with a smile on his face, where the oil proceeds will be used for any kind of infrastructure rebuilding or whatever that may be in Venezuela, and then whatever creates, a fund, which goes, they're going to hear this all in detail in a couple of days. I'm not going to go ahead and do this right now, but it creates a fund that goes towards paying down the national debt, which will alleviate some of the anxiety of these younger voters that are looking at this stuff and saying, you're adding more to the national debt and we're going to go bankrupt when I'm mid in my prime and I'm going to get screwed here. Like, if you could do that, help alleviate their fears, that would be great. Also, to the people who think that the Epstein issue is off the table, this is the beginning of December. This is called our rank distribution for most important voting issues. We track this weekly now, at least. It's in like almost, we're polling every single day now. I've been lucky enough to get this work. Most of it will be public, some of it will not. But this was the beginning of January, okay? Cost of living, economy and jobs, and healthcare and Obamacare. That was that's what rounded out rank 1, 2, and 3. Crime and safety was number 4, and immigration and border security were number 6. As of this week, by the way, corruption and accountability, that's Epstein. That is all Epstein fingerprints all over that. But it's also people wanting accountability for the COVID scam, the January 6th stuff. Like you said, he won the preserve or protect democracy vote because of these people, especially these younger people. And I would say, middle-aged who never voted before, the 80s babies who changed their minds and have low propensity vote history, these kind of guys. They wanted punishment for abusing the legal system to go after Donald Trump. All of this stuff is wrapped up in corruption and accountability. Epstein was a proxy for this issue. All right. I mean, if you just say Epstein, it's like in their minds, it encompasses all of that, all of the accountability that, Republicans have been promising all of these years. As of now, corruption and accountability, for people who keep saying that this issue just kind of fell away, right? And I saw a lot of people making fun of Kim.com, right? Like, corruption and accountability is number 4. It bumped immigration and crime down. I expect crime and safety will continue to fall because crime is getting better in this country. We had the biggest, that's one thing Trump was enormously successful in his first year. And as people realize that, it will fall even more. The reason I think, Robert, it's still up there, crime and safety, is because there's a bunch of people on the right who are afraid leftists are going to kill them.
Right.
I'm serious.
And this component, by the way, as we've been predicting, a lot of these voters are ideologically unaligned. They do not even identify as conservative.
Right.
So, that's what people have to get past. That these are, if you look at their political ideological profile, if we aggregate it, and may work on developing something to really segregate these voter groups, libertarians, populists, traditionalists, etc., so that people can understand them as we, and maybe develop, for manageable set of questions so that they don't have to spend 3 days answering the poll. You don't want that. But, some manageable 4 or 5 questions that you can, and then they'll be like, people who say people in Washington don't care about people like me. Wall Street is against me. Big corporations are against me. So, it's that traditional populist mindset. But we'd said, if the right doesn't deliver with a focus on domestic agenda, number 1, focus, for the love of God, all the people in Washington listening, focus on the domestic agenda. Every day spent on any foreign policy is a losing day. That's how you have to calculate going forward. So that's part 1. But these groups, they will turn to left populism. Look at the recently inaugurated mayor of New York City. Not only that, look at some of these Democrats rediscovering their old left populist rhetoric. Might they be a bunch of hypocritical frauds? I would say so. Guess what? Doesn't matter. They're making a pitch when they get to say, instead of taking care of your health care expenses and your affordability, Donald Trump is busy helping his billionaires and big oil
It's gonna
companies
work. It's
using
gonna
U.S. military overseas. That is one of the easiest political pitches
is
to make
working.
in the industrial Midwest and the Hispanic Southwest. And people who aren't paying attention, it reminds me, like some of the people I'm debating with online, et cetera. I'm like, I remember this. I wasn't online at the time, or wasn't in X at the time, but it was with friends and and others in the political community back in 2006. And I was like, this is going to be a disaster. Things are heading. I mean, this is going to be a Democratic surge. It's going to be
narrative.
You're like, no, Barnes, you understand. All these people love it. Yeah, we eat freedom fries, Barnes, not French fries. You know, all that routine.
They're afraid. People are still afraid. Like, no, they were afraid in 2002. They're not afraid like that now.
And I mean, we can get into the policy consequences. The real message is what Medvedev, the Russian deputy president, said, which is, hey, message to the world, go get nuclear weapons now, because who knows if the U.S. may invade you tomorrow and steal your president out of his bed.
And that's another thing I want to ask you about. Like, next time, listen, last time Joe Biden just arrested Donald Trump, okay, like himself, and like, you know, pretended that it was just like a U.S. attorney gone rogue or something, right? And or a district attorney in the case of New York. But next time, isn't it just easier for President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to get one of her like radical friend dictators
maybe
to go
the
arrest
government of Venezuela
to go
at the time,
JD
because they
Vance?
probably survive, and they extradite Trump to Venezuela because of his kidnapping of their president.
Yeah,
I mean, these people are like, oh, hey, this is a great idea. No, don't worry about this precedent. I'm like, here's some of the policy consequences. But independent of that, politically, these working class populist voters, some older industrial Midwest and historically, ancestrally anti-war voter groups that Richard and I have been covering now for the better part of a decade, don't want these foreign conflicts. They're not they're not machismo, Fox News, obsessive. These are people who in 2004 in Wisconsin, the Norwegian vote turned against George W. Bush at the peak of the popularity of the Iraq War. Because they just didn't like the war, period. It's true in parts of Appalachia. It's also, there's a deep anti-war sentiment in key components of the Hispanic vote that is being completely ignored because they're pretending the machismo Cubans and Venezuelans of South Florida are the defining essence of the Mexican American and Puerto Rican vote in other parts of the country. It's just not. And especially when Trump's talking about invading Mexico. So and maybe we'll depose their leader. Maybe we'll run their country too. I mean,
I'm showing right now.
United States of the Americas, you know, we'll add Canada, Mexico, Colombia, but you know, everything else. This was not what Trump, the other problem. So one problem is it's foreign over domestic. Second problem is voters do not see how this will tangibly benefit them. And then
but he didn't make the case, Robert. That's what I'm saying. Like, he didn't make you have to make the case. You just think all voters are going to one, read your mind, and two, act like that. What do we call it? 35% of MAGA that just does whatever Donald Trump, changes their views. Like, the influencers aren't doing it because they're like these people. The influencers are doing it because they're afraid of losing access or they're taking money. Like, we need a FARA kind of law for influencers now. I can't believe the law has not caught up to this. Guys, everybody, like, I have a private business. Robert Barnes has a private business. That's how we make money. And that's how we're able to say unpopular things that we think you need to hear and when they're true, because does it cost us money? Sure. But is it going to put us out of business? No. Those influencers, they're literally out of business. All right. Like, you know, and I don't want to have to name any people, but you know, the same people. Like, it's how, I'll name one. It's how Will Chamberlain can go from fighting Robert and I during the height of COVID, right? Because Robert and I were the only ones saying that this will destroy Donald Trump's presidency. They will use it to exploit absentee ballots, and they will take away freedoms that we will never get back. And Will Chamberlain was cheerleading for it and throwing polls in our face that showed Trump's approval at historic highs, right? And it was ludicrous to even have to debate this with somebody like him. But we ended up there. Will Chamberlain turned on Donald Trump, then supported Ron DeSantis, get this, because of Donald Trump's policy during COVID, which he cheer-led, and now he's back to again saying that this is MAGA. Right. Like, so these people can flip flop like they need to. That's how they survive. We need a fire law for influencers, Robert. We do. The dishonesty is it's unbelievably disgusting. And I will give a hat tip to a longtime follower, Murray on Twitter. Sorry, it's like D Murray. Maybe his first name's Douglas. I got to go check him out. But he's been absolutely consistent, unbelievable. He grabbed one of Will's things where Will was like, look, he realized DeSantis was going to lose and Trump was going to be the nominee. So he abandoned Ron real quick. And he said, look, we're just going to have to accept it. MAGA and America First is the party. No wars, no nation building, no nothing overseas, blah, blah, blah. Dealing with the American problems first. And that's it. That's the end of the debate. It's over. Right. And he compared that tweet to just what he sent yesterday, which is the total opposite. Like, this is MAGA. Like, come on, guys. Like, there's 35% of the party that will do that because they love Trump so much they'll believe anything. But the rest of the coalition is in the rest of that, the other side of the 35% of Republicans, a small sliver of orphan Democrats, and then a good chunk of independents who really aren't affiliated either way. And by the way, don't even vote unless you run on a real America First agenda. You need them. Like, losing a midterm, guys, is a choice. It's not a trend. If this idea of like the incumbent party always hurting is really more of a modern thing in American politics. It wasn't always like that. Go talk to Harry Truman. Go talk to, if they were alive, you know what I mean? The Roosevelt coalition, they did not accept this. They dominated Congress for 30 years. All right. They didn't have these ins and outs. How did they do it? They just delivered for their coalition. It's not hard. Barnes said before, this is a game of math. It's not even difficult arithmetic, folks. All right. This is very simple. The actions I take, are they going to cause me to lose more than I gain? And honestly, Trump's approval, I think we had him at the end of the year at the highest of any other pollster. We did have him recover somewhat. Where is it all coming from? It's coming from people who have a 4-year degree or a post-advanced degree saying they somewhat approve of Donald Trump's actions, but these people are voting, telling us they're voting for Democrats at the generic ballot level in this year now for the House of Representatives by double digits. So you can't rely on that vote who is clapping along and cheering you along to your doom. You need to deliver for the people who are actually part of your coalition, and you needed to make part of your coalition, solidify, complete the realignment, and you didn't do it. That's it. You failed at it. So like losing this midterm, if you do, will be a choice. And for those who say that you cannot lose the United States Senate, you are absolutely wrong. Iowa and Ohio are not Republican states. They are populist, Trumpian, or America First. I don't even know what to call them anymore. That is the kind of voter that delivered those states at the margins for you that you got. Iowa, last round of humiliation elections that Republicans just had to endure, the final one of the year, you just lost your super majority in the Iowa State Senate. You lost your super majority. They took 2 seats. They had no business in taking, Robert. No business. These are huge.
So if we do the plus minus, it's you can get some plus on job approval, but do you get plus for votes that matter in November? And on the plus side, I frankly see almost nobody. I don't see anybody that was not voting Republican that is now going to vote Republican because of this foreign policy focus. Yeah. On the other hand, let's start adding up the minuses.
That's a great way to put it. Yep.
Minuses. Libertarians. I mean, this administration's obsessed with just pissing on them on a daily basis. It's like, look, I get your agitation with the.
And I don't like Massey either. I don't like
with the irritable nature of libertarians, but torturing them and running them out of your base coalition, not smart. And people forgot how many votes Ron Johnson got. Imagine how many votes a presidential candidate Thomas Massey could get in this electoral environment. So. One is, libertarians, 2 to 4% of the electorate, the Ron Pauls, the Dave Smiths, etc. However, that can be decisive in a bunch of close races. Then now, group number 2 in the coalition, the historical anti-war vote. That anti-war vote has grown and grown and grown. It used to be rooted in parts of Appalachia. If you go back historically, Norwegian voters, certain anti-war voters. Iowa has a strong anti-war streak.
Yep.
New Hampshire has an anti-war streak.
Iowa's huge. It's huge.
Parts of Ohio, people forget, Senator Robert Taft from Ohio opposed NATO, opposed us being involved in NATO. Parts of eastern Kentucky. I mean, Massey comes from a region that's been the only congressman to vote against the Gulf of Tonkin resolution was from eastern Kentucky. So that's how deeply far back that goes. But your historical anti-war vote, which is big in some key areas of some key races of some key states, congressionally and for the Senate and for governor's state legislative seats as well for party control, you're going to lose at least some portion of those. Right now, they're overwhelmingly voicing their disapproval, that anti-war portion of the vote. Then you go to the third group, and this is just the new MAGA. These are younger, working class, diverse voters who shifted in their perspective of Trump because he went from being a billionaire oligarch reality TV show to the wrongfully indicted, wrongfully prosecuted, victim of lawfare and censorship and control and tried to imprison him, who they saw as the guy who was going to break up the machine, burn it to the ground, use Doge to torch the administrative state, deport everybody that's here illegally, stealing their jobs and their wages and their benefits and taxing their schools and infrastructure, et cetera.
H-1Bs,
above all,
H-1Bs. Don't forget, they hated the H-1B stuff.
Oh, yeah, they hated all that. But the key was Trump's branding in that regard. And this is something they're totally unappreciating in Washington and in the White House right now. That one of the big problems is one of the most common reactions I got from younger Trump supporters who have voiced on our Viva Barnes Law Board and other places that the degree of dissatisfaction and almost depression they have over this accumulating foreign policy focus. To them, Trump was not another politician.
Yeah.
Trump was outside the system. Yeah. Trump was here to be anti-system, destroy the system, deep six the deep state, drain the swamp. And when they see Trump saying things like, what's the difference between this and what George W. Bush did in Iraq? He says, I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask George W. Bush. Not a good position to be in. Nor only that, he looks exactly like Poppy Bush, who is the sine qua non personification of the establishment. He looks like the character from Tom Clancy's movie, or Tom Clancy's book that they made into a movie with Harrison Ford and the old guy president obsessed with taking out a drug lord overseas. This is not what they want. This is not what they care about. I understand there's a portion of MAGA that's all on board, but the problem is this is a game of math. Those people were already voting for you. You haven't added them to. You
haven't added them, right?
You've subtracted a whole bunch of new MAGA.
Yeah,
and that's who's reporting in these polls overwhelming dissatisfaction with this strike. Again, with the media being very positive, even CNN was mostly positive. MSNBC was even celebrating. Wide range of media sources. This was amazing. This was awesome. This was incredible. And at the peak of its perceived success, they're saying this is not what I voted for. That Trump is just another politician, just another Washington. That's what they believe. You may disagree with them out there. It doesn't matter. It's how they perceive it. So Trump is killing his brand and thus killing the party brand and the ability to realign politically. And that's why, as Richard's pointing out, they're dropping out of being extremely enthusiastic. They're dropping out of being certain to vote. So even if they're Republican leaning, they're just not going to vote. And then there's a good portion that will vote Democrat just in spite. Just out of anger about feeling betrayed. The way I was trying to explain it, because, we may be up in D.C. to talk with some people, but I was trying to explain it to some other people that are big Trump supporters. I was like, imagine you're dating a girlfriend, and the last 4 partners she had all cheated on her. She's going to be hypersensitive. When you take a little glance, Sydney Sweeney walks in the room, etc. The effect is they are waiting to be betrayed. They're waiting to be betrayed. Waiting at the moments. No, I knew it. And that's what Trump is telling them. Oh, yeah, I'm betraying you. He doesn't mean that, I'm sure. Doesn't want that to be the impression. But that's the message they're getting with his constant foreign military interventions and foreign focus. If he continues down this path, then it will be a bloodbath in 2026.
Dude, I mean, the bottom, that was a really good analogy. I'm going to use that because I try to explain. Sometimes I just dive too much into data. And like, not everybody does that or likes that, so like, that's a really good way to put it. But I'm thinking about when we did all, and if you're a longtime listener, I don't know how you don't get this. Your loyalty to the president's one thing, and that's good. I mean, it is what it is, but you don't have to be disloyal to take your head out of your ass. You have been watching the show since, I mean, what? Let's talk to the people who at least watch the nomination for president between him, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, the Trump or bust part of the coalition, and all of the people that we talked about that like mirrored the Ross Perot, fracture off of the Republican Party. This is the danger. This is what you're on track to do. Those voters who told us the only one they would ever vote for is Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis got no citations from these groups. Nikki Haley got no citations from these groups. They did it because they thought that Donald Trump would be different, and that he wasn't the same kind of a politician. And when you do what he did with the Epstein files, you signal to them, no, in fact, you are just another politician. When you run on something like America First, and then it completely, because this isn't a one-off here, guys. This isn't something that just started to happen. This started in the spring of last year and then got really bad in the summer, and they have ignored repeated calls and repeated pleas from the American people to reposition. He called people with concerns, names, and said he didn't want their support anymore. I mean, if Rush Limbaugh was still alive, he would say that this is the one thing Donald Trump could never do. Like, only Donald Trump could break the bond with his voters. This is what he is doing. He's breaking the bond. And as we saw when the bond was broken between this same kind, because they really demographically do remind me so much of the Ross Perot coalition. The difference is they're more diverse. The MAGA coalition is more diverse. And Ross Perot's coalition was like 16 or 17% Hispanic. Like, it was more Hispanic than the Republican coalition. And black for that matter, but it was still overwhelmingly white. The new MAGA that is, let's just call it new MAGA. That's part of that Ross Perot-like coalition. They're even more diverse, and they were younger than Ross Perot's coalition. So they were much more like what Robert just said, in the position of being like someone who's just had like the last three partners cheat on them. And you really needed to be sensitive with that. And I mean, you guys can make fun of it all you want, but you're the ones who are going to lose. It's not, for not taking it seriously. These people have real concerns, and Trump was marketed to them as somebody who would finally care about their concerns. And here you have, in the middle of a fight over Doge, which they loved, you have Donald Trump say, oh, we got to stop all that for a second, and we got to go help BB over here. My donors need me, like my BB needs me. All right. And then it never got back on track. And those of us who understand what's going on here repeatedly conveyed this to them, and that in the new year, because I did know what was going to happen, this would be a cataclysmic mistake. If something goes wrong, it could be easy, guys. I mean, they could just fall in line, and Trump could get like a win here, and it doesn't turn into a big problem on the ground. They're still going to say, but you prioritize them over us again. Like, they were hoping Trump would come out in the new year with like a massive domestic push, and that is everything he needed to do. And he's not. That's not coming. All right. All of these things, these like QAnon like hopes that I see people holding on to, you're just being told that by a bunch of influencers who were paid to tell you that. I know. I'm telling you, I know for a fact. All right. They got sidelined again. Susie had for a while there called everybody and their mother to get their opinion and say, where do we go wrong? What do we need to do? And I know Robert's real hard on her, and I'm hard on her too. I mean, people in power should be hard on them. I mean, everyone, doesn't matter who they are. But I'm telling you, it was an honest effort to try to get back on track. And look, it's been 4 weeks, 5 weeks since everybody's had their say, and everyone's had, run their data by her, and, whatever. And look, we're off track already. Hey, Robert, you think you could carry it for like 2 minutes while I pick up the phone for them? Because they're calling me right now. Yeah, I'm serious. They're literally calling, and I'm getting texts. Okay. All right, cool.
So and for those that are kind of unfamiliar, to understand the sort of the broad coalition that made the Trump 2024 coalition, which people need to understand is both broader and deeper than anyone he ever had before. Much better than the 2016 coalition, better than the 2020 coalition. The people that flooded in were a lot of these new voters, what I call new MAGA. Not the fake MAGA, not Will Chamberlain MAGA, but new MAGA, honest to God MAGA. They're in my extended family and friend network. And these people, by the way, don't watch me or anything else. I don't tell them what I think about politics. I just use them as sort of proxies. This includes working class African Americans, working class Mexican Americans, working class Puerto Ricans. And I saw them. I knew 2020 was going to be a lot closer, and in places like Texas and Florida wasn't going to be that close because it was a lot of working class Mexican American friends of mine who went from being obsessively anti-Trump in 2016, such that like one way to punish one of them who was a relative at my house in Vegas was to make her wear a MAGA hat for a day. That was her worst. That she feared that punishment more than anything else. Now they were coming back in 2024 and they were wearing MAGA hats. I was like, oh wow,
yeah.
Every single one of them is off the Trump train. Half of them are angry that they feel betrayed and lied to by Trump, and we're seeing it in all of the data. And you can track it in social media metrics. You can track it in the polling metrics. You can track it in your extended family and friend networks. And the problem is in DC, they don't have these. Now, JD does to some degree, but he and Bobby Kennedy are the only ones that have any degree of influence. And how humiliating the implicit promise to a wing of this group that was the anti-war vote, the anti-deep state vote.
Yeah, it's really good.
Was Tulsi Gabbard's inclusion in the campaign.
I knew you were going to say
What was the one thing Tulsi campaigned on for the better part of a decade? Don't do regime change or military intervention in Venezuela. She was just 2 weeks ago said, don't worry, Trump's not going to do any regime change operations. I mean, it's humiliating to her, but worse, it's humiliating to her voters who feel lied to and betrayed.
I was right there. I was standing right there. Like but by the way, it's no secret. I got a bit of crush on Tulsi Gabbard. All right. I got a bit of crush. So I'm like calling Andrew. I'm like, yo, you better make a spot for me right next to that woman. I love Tulsi Gabbard. But look, it's also just the fact that like it's rare when somebody can do what Tulsi does, which is what she did. Was a Democrat, was a influential Democrat, was seen as a rising star, single-handedly ended Kamala Harris's campaign as a candidate for the Democratic nomination. I don't know if you guys know this, but Tulsi ended Kamala Harris's campaign during a debate. They were all up on the stage, her, Joe Biden, Bernie, all of them. And she turned to Kamala Harris and just made her she's filleted her, about you're a fraud. You're a total fraud. And just went down the list of you put more black and brown people in jail than any Republican you're going to run against. You put anybody on the stage over here for sure. Like she buried her. And we actually tracked Kamala Harris's favorability back then. Man, that was it. When Tulsi did that, I'm talking among Democratic voters, man. Harris was like right down into the dump, never recovered, never made it to Iowa. She was done. She was cooked at that moment. And then to be able to change your mind after, having it's impressive. It's refreshing to see somebody be honest with themselves and be honest with with people around them in this space. There's just too many people who are not capable of doing that. And you can prove to them like demonstrably what you think is wrong. And they just don't care. Like it's bad thing about human nature, honestly. But in the political world, it's even worse. And she is, like a great example of somebody, that we should all try to be more like, honestly. And when we're looking at the facts, they no longer support our argument. You have to realize that's the case instead of just continuing to shill. And that's what the right has done over the last 48 hours to an almost unprecedented level. Like, and I was around for the Q-tards in the first administration, right? And then that's what we're getting now. I mean, I can't believe Alex is he's back on the Q-tard wagon. He is. I'm stunned. Like, look, I do personally, just so you guys understand, let me just say this. I personally want to take Venezuela's oil. Okay. So all these people are like, you're not giving you're giving your opinion on this. You're giving your opinion on that on X. No, I'm actually just relaying what the public is telling me because I interview people unlike you. That's all I do every day. I've interviewed more people in the last year than I've ever interviewed in any year, including in 2016 when we had a daily tracking poll. I have spoken to an ungodly number of people. I still interview people myself. I'm one of the only pollsters who does this. And I'm telling you what they're saying. My own views are irrelevant, but my own views, I do want their oil. I want their gold too. I want Greenland because I want to be a space dominant superpower. I want to be a multi-planet species. I am all on board with that. Those are my personal views, but it's not about what I think. It's about what the majority of voters, the winning coalition thinks. And right now you're losing, and you're losing because you're not listening. And there would have been a way to sell this, Robert, I'm telling you, but to push that to the group you just described, to push a what? Like supposedly renewed, improved version of the fucking war on drugs from George Herbert Walker Bush's administration. You thought that was the answer? Come on, dude. You're embarrassing yourselves at this point. You're embarrassing yourselves.
I'll see what you think about this, but the way I was putting it to something the other day.
While this is going on, by the way. Go ahead. Oops. Go ahead. I'm going to put some stuff on the screen.
Sure. Because we have a range of jobs data. The job, if you're wondering why are these young people unhappy, why are sort of a good portion of independent MAGA very unhappy? Yep. Why is the consumer sentiment surveys the worst they have ever been amongst independents and even key Republican-leaning independents in terms of their job prospects, in terms of what they think the economy is going into? That in terms of actual job growth, 2025 was one of the worst years outside of true recession years.
Yep.
That's it. And then you dig in deeper, and more of them are on part-time. See, this doesn't even factor in loss of full-time jobs versus now I'm working 2 part-time jobs. The problems during the Biden administration, pretending that GDP mattered more than real disposable income and real wages.
We're doing the same thing now.
All over again. They're repeating the Biden era mistakes in terms of economic messaging. And so the underlying economy is very fragile. People are not seeing they assumed when they voted for Trump, the pre-COVID economy was going to come right back. And that meant housing was affordable. Healthcare was manageable. The real wages growing. Only time real wages have grown consistently under any administration since Clinton was Donald Trump.
Yep.
First term. Real wages are flatlining. Real disposable income is flatlining. And people see healthcare expenses skyrocketing. That's their concern. And their concern is that their job prospects and voters have had a better sense of where the economy is going in terms of jobs than all the economists and government statisticians combined. To give you,
they've been real bad at this year.
I mean, exactly. It is just bad. I mean, by every metric, jobs just fell off the floor, fell off the cliff in the fall. It was a disaster. I mean, to be frank, I underappreciated it. I thought Democrats were going to win, but I didn't think it was going to be as bloody as it was in November. But I'm not someone to sit around, because I do put my money where my mouth is. I'm not going to sit around and pretend that somehow it was a fluke, which is what a lot of these people are doing.
It's just blue states voting for blue people. Okay.
And I was going to ask you 2 questions. I was giving this example to someone the other day, to give people an understanding of the domestic political environment. We could pitch people that we could be, imagine it was like 1941 all over again, and say, guess what, everybody? Hitler's about to murder a whole bunch of people, including Jewish people and disabled people and other people for other reasons, is going to try to take over the whole world, Germany and Japan. And we can go in and let's even say we were able to promise quickly and easily and efficiently and with minimal collateral damage, and we could end the Holocaust tomorrow. A majority of Americans right now would say no.
Yeah,
okay?
probably.
That's how anti-foreign intervention they are right now. They are. Do I have a predisposition?
That's a good question. That's a good question to ask. I think I'm going to add something like that. Like, here, let me present to you a hypothetical. I'm curious, but it would have to be fair, where it said, like, get in light of our own domestic issues. Right. Here's a hypothetical. In light of our own, domestic issues with jobs, the cost of living, healthcare, etc. Right. And we'll do it after most important issues, so we don't influence that. in light of what you just told us, given all of those challenges you think we have, in this hypothetical scenario, what would you want to do? You know, kind of a thing. Would you support or oppose this? And we'll do a Likert scale with like strongly support to strongly oppose. I'm doing that. This is a good idea. I'm curious. I bet you're right. I bet you it comes back negative, bro. I bet you it comes back opposed. It might be close, but
especially with the key groups that are negative right now.
Yeah.
My guess, the majority of those voters will say, we won't even do it for that. Because that's, if you dig into the data and you listen to enough people, and you like, if you go to the social media influencers and say, look at influencers who are either libertarian or Kennedy supporters or Tulsi supporters who jumped on the MAGA train in 2024 as part of this big, broad coalition that swept the swing states, that made massive inroads into the Hispanic Southwest, that sealed up the realignment potential in the industrial and anti-war Midwest in places like Ohio and Iowa. That if you go to their influencer feeds, I mean, over half of them are already saying I'm off the Trump train. I regret ever being part of it. I was
I've
lied
seen a lot of this.
It's
Robert,
already happening.
Both Mark and I have both interviewed people who are suicidal. That have like, I just so everybody understands, and you can laugh at them all you want. We don't think it's funny. Okay. Like they basically said, you know, I haven't voted in a long time. I voted for Trump because I really thought this was the last chance. I'm in dire straits. The country's in dire straits. I'm so apoplectic. I'm literally thinking of suicide. Like we have both spoken to people who have said that. Me, because we do the elaborated response, I've actually seen it more than once. But Mark got one specifically and was like, holy shit, dude. Like, have you ever seen these before? Like, you know, no. I don't think I've ever seen that. And it's not because we're in the worst situation we've ever been in, or it's not better now than it was under Biden. It's because it's not what they were told it was going to be. And they're so disappointed that's like, to them, it's like the end of the line. You brought up before the independents. I just wanted to show people like that core group that says I have little in common with either. We've been doing this longer than any other pollster. We have Republican identification, which tracks America First versus traditional Republican, which one you identify as. And then we do Democrats, which is like, are you a democratic socialist, a traditional liberal, a straight up socialist? And by the way, you better wake up soon because the left is getting more and more fanatic every day. They are a majority socialist party and they're going to put people in camps. So wake up. I'm not kidding. Wake up. And then independent, which says, because the truth is, most of the country folks that says they're independent, they're really not. They have views of their own. About a third will lean to the right. About a third will lean to the left. You can see there are more lean to the Democratic Party this month than before, or at the end of last month. Then, sometimes this switches. Maybe it's a little bit more Republican. Maybe it's a little bit more Democrat. But the biggest group typically, and this is not the case this month is Democrat. The biggest groups are those who say they share, maybe they're equally aligned or they share little in common with either. That share little in common with either is how Trump won the election. End of story. Full stop. The marriage of Maha and MAGA, that blew this group wide open for Donald Trump. It's how he won Michigan and Mike Rogers lost. It's how he won Pennsylvania pretty comfortably and Dave McCormick only won because Trump was on the ballot. Like, this is I can't even stress how important this group is. All right. We saw Kennedy's voters go from in this group to Donald Trump. I mean, it was an incredible moment when Maha married MAGA, and it just, not that he was gonna he was always gonna win, but maybe he only carried this state and maybe only carried that state. Like, this is how he destroyed her. Okay. Look at share little in common with either now, Robert. Let's just go down to the generic ballot with the leaners. You can see overall independents are 44-30 for Democrats right now. I mean, disgusting. I mean, that's a really bad. It is incredibly difficult to change this now. I mean, Democrats are almost to 50. We're 9 months out, guys. I mean, 10 months out. It's not. Independents are always the last ones to decide. Normally, we'll get like a 35-25 kind of margin until we get to like Labor Day. They're already 44% for Democrats. That is extremely bad. And if you look at the share little in common with either, they're 55% of them are saying they're going to vote someone else or third party. Telling you right now, when we start to tighten our likely voter screen, that will vanish because many of them will, but most of them are just not going to vote. That's what's going to happen. The rest of them are going 30-16 for Democrats. So you have half of them who are checked out. They're out. And then the other half is 2-1 in favor of Democrats. 2-1. I don't care if you have an R+2 national electorate, you're still going to lose. You're still going to lose like this. The math don't math for you, man. It's not. So I don't know. Who's the retard now? All these people, all they have, you're a retard. The guy doesn't even know how Venezuelans vote. And that's another, it's like this hatred over Venezuelans. Venezuelans and Cubans identify more as America First in Florida than whites with no college degree. They were the most MAGA, the most America First demographic in the constituency. 75-25, those Venezuelans in South Florida voted. Come on, you fucking idiots. Now you want to deport them? So here you have the left, Robert, and the right, like the Bushies on the right. They destabilize countries. So a bunch of Eastern value voters who vote left wing can flood the Western world, right? That's what they do. MAGA gets in power and they destabilize countries so they can deport their own voters back to them. I mean, it's just, bro, the retardedness, it's just, I can't deal with that level of stupid. It's just, I have a hard time comprehending that level of retardedness even exists among the human race. Like, how could you be so stupid? If you're going to destabilize these countries, destabilize them and then go bring them and stuff them into Georgia, stuff them into New Hampshire, put them in New Jersey. But that's what Obama did to people. Nobody even knows this. Obama did this on purpose, and his Department of Interior had a plan to put them into purple and red states so that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they would produce Democratic voters. They're on another level than the right, bro. Like the Democrats, they are. It's just true. Let's just be real. Well, they're smarter, bro, and more ruthless.
They understand political power and how to wield it.
More ruthless.
And now that they can see that they're going to discover, like as they discovered with Epstein, they're like, hey, if we glam onto this message, it's going to resonate like wildfire. And the hypocrisy's never been a limitation on the Democratic Party.
No.
So this was the party of slavery that pretends to be the party of abolition. This is the party of segregation that pretends to be the party of civil rights. So but you're right. I mean, that Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard voter that got added, the MAGA Maha coalition that you, I, and critically Charlie Kirk helped bring about. And I agree with you. No chance any of this foreign focus continued to be obsessive if Charlie's still alive.
No.
The people who profited most from initially, it's the Trantifa left. But the second bigger institutional group is the deep state neocons. I mean, the CIA is running our foreign policy for the last 6 months, folks. It wasn't Ukraine that tried to kill Vladimir Putin. It was the CIA.
Can we tell everybody now? Is that all right?
Which could have triggered World War III, by the way. I mean, these people are just in Ratcliffe.
And we got caught.
The word rat in Ratcliffe is let the CIA run amok. And
we're caught.
He's leading Trump by the nose. Can you imagine being so bold as you go to the New York Times to brag to everybody how you got Trump to sign on to running the dirty war of Ukraine, assassinations and all the rest, and their drone war, etc., and to even brag, hey, I got Trump to do it because Trump was like, oh, good, I'll have plausible deniability. And then telling the New York Times that. Bye-bye plausible deniability when your CIA director is ratting you out to the whole world through the New York Times.
And I knew something was up, Robert, because he was so quiet. I'm like, hey. And you know who I'm talking about? I'm like, hey. So he meets the Zelensky. And then like hours later, Zelensky tries to kill Putin. Like, isn't the president pissed? And he made him look like a fool. Like, and it was just like quiet and obfuscation. And I'm like, holy shit, they knew. And then, of course, now we find out. And by the way, guys, we got busted because the Russians recovered the controllers on those drones, and they handed it to us.
Because Ratcliffe was like, "Oh no," to the press. No, don't worry. Yeah, there was drone attack, etc. We were trying to hit another building. Right. It just happened to be near the vice president. It wasn't even in the real neighborhood. And so the Russians are like, oh, that's funny. We got this mapping from the drone, And it's right to Vladimir's house. And the Russians know, by the way, they'll pretend it's MI6, and it'd be just as a courtesy to Trump, because they think Trump at some point might recognize rapprochement with Russia, like our national security statement written by Elbridge Colby recommends. Rapprochement with Russia is in our strategic interest.
Of course,
right,
it is.
folks? That's in our best interest. Continuing the Ukraine war and that nightmare and disaster and having a bunch of Operation Gladio-style terrorists reign over Europe is a bad idea. But, again, the CIA wants to continue the war. The CIA has always wanted to take out Putin. The CIA loves Ukraine because it's a money laundering, human trafficking pit that they can use incessantly and have been for the last decade plus.
And develop things they shouldn't be developing in any other country.
Correct. Bioweapons, etc.
Bioweapons,
you name it. I mean, it's no coincidence the human trafficking capital of the world. Maybe the reason the CIA took out Maduro is they wanted to secure the cocaine supply directly to Zelensky. But
that's another thing, Robert. Who's the biggest CIA? The CIA is the biggest drug dealer in the world. All right.
Oh yes, we dominate. I mean. I was reminding dear JD about this. Now, he was only 5 years old when Panama happened, so he can be excused. He didn't see Panama Deception, the documentary, or the rest. But he's like, hey, this might really break up the drug traffic. Like, that was the pitch during Noriega. I remember this. I've seen this script.
Me too.
I've already watched the film.
We're back
and guess
here.
what, folks? Drug supply in the United States after Noriega's removal went up. Guess how much it went up through Panama? It more than doubled. The drug supply is about to go up in the United States, not down. Because if you understand, the true traffic organizers and orchestrators of this
are the
is
CIA.
Still people connected to the CIA.
Robert, after we invaded Afghanistan, before we did, only 180 metric tons, which is not a lot, of opioid-related products were exported from Afghanistan. Why? And anyone who served in the army and in Afghanistan will know. Because the Taliban outlawed it, and they, along with the Iranians, used to routinely police both sides of this region where the traffickers would go through. If you walk through it, you'll step on human bones because they leave the traffickers where they shoot them. They lie where they die. And they get caught in Iranian Taliban crossfire. And they were very, very effective at keeping the exports of opiates down. We were told that the Taliban grows opium poppy, and that's how they have their money. And it was all a load of bullshit. After we invaded Afghanistan, the exports of opium-related products skyrocketed. It skyrocketed. I think it reached a high of like 12,000 metric tons or something like that by 2017, I think it was. We did a big story about this on People's Planet Daily back then. And then after we left Afghanistan, we just actually got the new annual, because there's an annual opioid survey every year by the UN. We just got it. It has already plummeted back down. We were the ones selling the opium. I hate to tell you all, during the CIA has taken advantage of every regime change in areas that produce drugs, like Latin America and the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia. They have taken advantage of every regime change operation to sell drugs. All right. I'm sorry to hurt some of your boomer feelings where you still think these people are like the good guys or something. They're not. They're incredibly bad people. Frank Lucas used to pay the United States Army to stuff the coffins of dead GIs with heroin so he could smuggle it back to LaGuardia. I mean, this is like
little tidbit. Where did Frank Lucas suddenly escape to never be found again, or just to disappear from all the warrants? It was a CIA operation in a certain South American country that was the middleman for the heroin trade. Oh, yeah, it was Venezuela. The Cartel of the Suns, started by the CIA in the early 1990s. I mean, so FYI. In fact, I was well, maybe we'll mention it in another capacity, but I thought, well, I've dinged JD just a little bit. There's no reason to go crazy. But for everybody else out there, I was like, we can track the history of drugs in the United States, to Richard's point.
Yeah.
And wherever American presence or American occupied or aligned governments are, whenever that occurs, drugs into the U.S. goes up. This, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's Afghanistan, Or let me tell you the whole little brief history of the cocaine traffic. How did it take off in the 1970s? How did so many people were just chewing on coca leaves in little farmers in Bolivia suddenly become the white powder, the Bolivian marching band for celebrities in Hollywood and in L.A. and then across America, and devastating usually our vets, because our vets get addicted like they got addicted in Afghanistan, like they got addicted in Vietnam. And then they're the number one customer base when they come back home to the U.S. For these operations. Well, you can just Google it yourself. You don't believe it. Just look up Bolivia, look up it was when American-aligned right-wing regime change governments took over Latin America that the drug trade exploded into the United States.
Watch this, Robert.
Indeed, it was a little place. One of the guys involved, by the way, like I always say, you can always track everything back to the Nazis, was a guy the CIA helped smuggle out of Europe. And his name was Klaus Barbie. Klaus Barbie was one of the biggest drug dealers and distributors and producers. He's the one who popularized cocaine distribution from Bolivia into the United States. He's the one who helped create the huge cocaine market. It was a great DEA agent in Argentina who stumbled on all this. And then, of course, he was not long later, he was pushed out of the DEA because he had stumbled into who was really doing all the cocaine distribution, who was the origin source of it. And yes, it was the Central Intelligence Agency. And using Nazis, we smuggled out of Germany, no less.
Here's what happened after we left Afghanistan. It's the first year. It's a 95% decline after CIA left Afghanistan. It's unbelievable. It isn't unbelievable, though. It's predictable if you know how the world works. I mean, it went down from 60. It was already because, 95% is 6,200 tons in 22 to only 330 tons after we withdrew in 23. In the fall, corresponding to a fall in the area under cultivation from 233,000 hectares to just 10,800 over the same period. Guys, we were distributing the drugs. All right. And if you know anyone who was in the military and who took mercenary contracts. That's what they are. You thought you were going there to do good or something. And that's why I never wanted to do that, Robert, because it's always different for me anyway, to pull the trigger for the flag versus for money. So I never did that. And a bunch of my friends did. And they ended up guarding opium poppy fields for, friends.
At least it was better than guarding the boy rape dens.
Yeah, that's true.
So many of our U.S. soldiers had to do. They literally were guarding places so that older Afghanis could rape young boys.
There's something with it, guys. Like these older Afghan officers, they like little boys, and they have their pick, and the UN will tell you leave it alone. NATO, all of it, NATO forces, but particularly UN, they'll tell you it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural difference.
Imagine being a U.S. soldier having to guard that.
You
wonder what makes the martyr maids and the rest enraged at the American military establishment. It's experiences like that.
My buddy Howard
in the Middle East. I mean, it's from lived experience. The Daryl didn't become a deeply anti-Israel because he had some obsession with Jews. It was because he got to see how they waged war and we supported it, starving children, things like that. So and that's what will happen here because the elites are connected to all this. Like, for example, take the drug boats. I have no doubt that was the CIA taking out competition. Hey, look at that guy. He's not on an approved path. Hey, bomb him. Stop the drugs. By the way, this goes way back. The many Mexican generals who were working with the U.S., almost every single raid they did was a raid on a competitor of the bigger cartels.
Yeah, of course.
That's how the whole thing worked. I mean, this goes back to Prohibition days.
They get their own guy. They get their own guy, and then they make the straw man argument against the big guy. That's why, honestly, not that I'm a fan of Pablo Escobar, but that guy is a victim of that shit. He at one point did care about his country quite a bit. They didn't even let him.
His crime was refusing the CIA.
That's what he did. Yeah, that's
his crime had nothing to do with drugs.
That's right.
It was, hey, you didn't approve. You got to be on the CIA approved logistical list, pal.
That's right. That's one.
Otherwise, you become enemy number one.
That's why the Escobar thing really bothered me. It did, because here's a guy who first wanted to do he's building when he got wealthy from the drugs, he built the barrios and stuff like that. But before that, he really just wanted to serve in Congress. He, and he wasn't
he was
a
an
part
old
of
school left populist
Yes.
in his politics. He was building. The reason why people are like, why was he? He couldn't have been possibly popular. He was amongst a large group of poor people in Colombia because he built housing, he built schools, he built hospitals, he built soccer fields. He did all of that day.
He legitimately
that,
won.
by the
Robert.
way, was his crime. It was like, you're not serving corporate America and the CIA. Oh, this is a double crime. We got to take you out, bro. After we took out Pablo, did the drug supply go down? After we arrested the Cali cartel, did the drug supply go down? Now that El Chapo's up in Supermax, did the drug supply go down? And this is the other problem for someone in JD's position. You go out there and say, hey, and I give him credit for saying we should have objective metrics to measure the success of this.
Right.
What happens when the drug supply goes up rather than down in 2026?
Yeah, that's why I think there's some people here that are just a little bit naive about what's really going on. And what happens? They ignore it, because this also happened under Bush. They were like, we're going to take out and we're burning all the poppy fields and we're replacing it with wheat, and we're going to give people jobs that, for exporting legitimate products. And then that never happened. All of those plans were complete failures. And instead, the opium production and exports skyrocketed, and they just stopped talking about it. They just stopped talking about it.
Remember all the generals who are on CIA payroll? Air America, folks. Just go.
Air America. Oh, my God.
We were mostly Air America. The illegal operations in Laos and Cambodia were mostly running drugs back to the United States.
That's what they do best. Run drugs and run guns. That is what they do best, guys. All right.
People don't realize it. There's a reason why nothing about fentanyl is in the indictment, because there's no connection between Maduro and fentanyl. There's a reason. God bless Trump. I mean, I was like, what Monroe Doctrine he's talking about? That was my old ancestor, cousin, John Quincy Adams, who also said,
nobody's
in
ever
his
read
great
it.
July 4th speech, we do not go abroad searching for monsters to destroy, that America's constitutional republic is best protected by not having an empire overseas, because that was the lesson they had learned from Europe. But he wrote the letter that is the base of the Monroe Doctrine. The whole first part of it is no foreign interventions. It says, look, we think many of these nations have the best intentions. It never works out well.
Yeah.
It was not a call for us to do foreign interventions. It was in opposition to all foreign interventions, in particular Europe, but it was all of them, period. There's nothing in it that says, now America will intervene instead. The whole thing, but I give Trump credit. He correctly identified he wasn't referencing the Monroe Doctrine. He was referencing the Dunroe Doctrine, a less known version, which is like Teddy Roosevelt's, something like that. So it's like, okay, it's the Dunroe Doctrine. I get it, Trump. I credit. But I think why we're hammering this is not because we want Democrats to win. It's not because we want the left to win. It's not because we want Trump impeached. It's because we want the opposite of those things.
Yep.
But we're trying to educate people. We've been screaming now for 6 months, reverse course, please God, reverse course, please God, reverse course. Yep. If you do, you can salvage 2026. You can salvage 2028 for Vance. For the love of God, please reverse course. And they just keep doubling down.
Just keep it up. Yep. They just keep it up. Here's the original. I'm trying to find the actual indictment to show people. I was actually going to share it.
They didn't even indict him with money laundering. Which tells you how weak the indictment. For those people that don't know, I'm sure there's corrupt generals, etc. The reason why it was not in Maduro's interest to go into bed with the drug dealers is because he saw the drug dealers as a potential threat to their political power, threat to their military power, particularly out in the jungles. So I'm sure deals were done along the way, but in general, he wanted them weak, not strong. Removing Maduro has people like FARC being like, woohoo!
Hey,
we have more power than before. Maybe we'll even have chaos. Maybe we'll take pot shots on U.S. soldiers if, like Trump says, I'm not afraid of boots on the ground. You should be, Donald, because that ain't what people voted for.
Robert, there was a $15 million bounty awarded for Maduro's capture. Somebody got 15 mil.
Trump said, don't worry, they were keeping it, according to Trump.
Is that what he said?
Well, that's, you know what probably happened? They probably this is classic CIA. They probably totally betrayed the guy. They promised him a bunch of $50 million.
They left him,
and then they took off without him.
Yep.
And then the Venezuelans came in and bam, 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 bam. You know,
And I don't even laugh at it. I'm
You
not
can't
laughing
trust the
because
CIA. Ask the guys
be
when we
stupid.
were like, hey, please just take Noriega out. We think he's a big drug dealer. Well, a group of patriotic Panamanian military officials went and kidnapped Noriega.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, come in. And the CIA said, hey, if you do it, we'll come in and help you. CIA didn't even show up at all. All of them got whacked out because the goal was to take out the whole Panamanian military. Because after we took out the Panamanian military, 2 years later, Congress said, you know what? We got to keep control of the canal. They don't have a military down there in Panama. It's like, why don't they have a military? Oh, yeah, we took them out. Because the whole thing was one last grab at the Panama Canal after Carter's treaty. Which didn't work because the people we put in charge were so incompetent in Panama, and because we covered up the fact we destroyed a bunch of poor people's homes, there were mass graves, people missing everywhere, all that jazz. Yeah. I mean, we blew up people in their car. Well, apparently we were using it for experimental weapons because there was all kinds of people who saw like weird laser weapons, other weapons. We just said, hey, why not? Well, we can. But it fell apart, and so we weren't able to grab the canal back. Though, of course, Trump occasionally talks about that too. It's like, how many places are we going to go? But politically, this is if you think the policy benefits are going to be great, and if those policy benefits really come about, maybe it can reverse the political equation. But this was the second question. If I was in the White House, my advice would be shift all focus to the domestic, just declare Maduro a win, and just get out. Pull back the embargo. Don't worry about getting neck deep in that. Don't go into Colombia. Don't go into Mexico. Don't go into Cuba. Don't go into Iran. By the way, he was on Air Force One signing "Make Iran Great Again" hats with Lindsey Graham.
I know. I'm not even playing that.
This is the worst imaging you could possibly do. But what are your thoughts? Wouldn't it be better off, at least domestically, politically, if they just declared victory, cut bait, and shifted back full domestic?
Yeah, because I don't think they look, like I said, I actually did have a plan here. And I mean, it's probably too late at this point because you'd have to go at this point. I think in order to do it, you'd have to go back and you'd have to knock everybody out. Their plan at the moment is to strangle them financially until somebody gives the rest of this. They don't want to take out the entire military. They just want to take out.
That's worked so well with Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, I've been down this road before, but like they're not going to accept a foreign non-Latin leader. So I'll say that much.
I'll give Trump credit on that fake Machado. He learned from Juan Guaido. People forget he tried this in the first administration, just not this direct. He remember he invited him to the State of the Union as the fake president of Venezuela. Yeah. That's so humiliating. None of them talk about it anymore. Machado, they've done polling in Venezuela. Machado's the most hated person in Venezuela. And the reason is even the opposition, most ordinary voters that are opposition voters, don't like him, don't want foreign interventions. I mean, ask yourself, I didn't like Joe Biden. Would I be happy if Russia invaded us to bomb us? No.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like Joe Biden.
Just because you don't like Joe Biden, right? And by the way, even if there were people celebrating in the streets of Venezuela, which there were not, all right, they did drag a statue apparently of Hugo Chavez in a certain region. But even if that was true, if let's say Vladimir Putin or somebody else came in, actually, let's do this. If like President Macron came in and arrested Donald Trump and like swooshed him off, then there would be millions of Democrats in the street celebrating. So it's not the best standard. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, some of the stuff that I'm seeing.
Nor has it ever been a good proxy for what's going to happen long term. I was like, we captured the lead guy and now it's going to be mission accomplished. I think I've heard this before. I think I've seen it before. So,
yeah, there's Maduro's 4 counts, by the way: narco terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine.
He loved the gun charge. He
threw a gun charge.
Army. He has guns, so we're now going to call that a crime. Does anybody not recognize in the administration how laughably ludicrous that sounds? How stupid that sounds? It also sounds anti-Second Amendment, but it's like, and if they had anything on him being, and they got to quit making up the stuff about Iran, Hamas is really running out of Venezuela, everybody. The Hezbollah is also really running out. It's like the Naked Gun movie where they're all getting together in the meeting, Gorbachev is there with the Ayatollah, and they're all meeting in secret to coordinate to kill the queen. It's like they took bad scripts and wrote down, here's our script for this, which was like the Biden administration. Like, the movies that have a totalitarian dictator like Orwell 1984. We're going to use that for Zelensky. We're going to use the V what was the name? V for the V for Vendetta.
Vendetta, yeah.
Yeah, we'll use that totalitarian dictator's backdrop, and we'll have Joe Biden appear in front of it. It's like, who comes up with this? These are things to be afraid of, not things to join. But the script is so bad. The script writers for the CIA are not up to snuff anymore. They're not at the same level.
They don't care anymore. They don't care anymore. That's why.
Exactly.
Because they know they're just going to get away with it. They know that they're not like stupid, right? They understand that there's a part of the president's supporters that are just going to cheer like clapping seals no matter what. They're masters.
He jumps right off the cliff.
Yeah, well, I was going to say then there's another part, not that 35%, that about 15% that includes like the Will Chamberlains, who I brought up before. They're doing this because they want him to fail. They're all gearing up to support Ron DeSantis, or the other side of this, like the Ben Shapiro's. They're gearing up to support Ted Cruz, Tel Aviv Ted Cruz, right?
Yeah, I did have a recommended costume outfit I shared with Ted Cruz over the holiday. I'm not sure if he's going to join in, but I was thinking for Mark Levin, I was feeling bad, poor guy. He's kind of losing his mind. He's going off on Rich. He's going off on me. He's going off on Dave Smith. He's going off on everybody. I thought we should cheer him up for the holidays, so maybe send him some Christmas carolers. But I thought we'd send him, why not Jews for Jesus? I thought that would be a little gift for Mark. So send some Jews for Jesus for his house. If he could, they'll make him feel better.
Did you see my sweater in my response video? It was blue. Jesus is the reason for the season in blue and white. And I have to thank my buddy Owen, longtime follower on Locals. He sent me that. And I was like, I wonder if I still fit in this thing, because I've been working out. Like some things I don't fit into anymore. It fit perfect. It was perfect. It was exactly what it needed to be. I absolutely wore that on purpose. He's lost his damn mind. But I have always told people, and this, what Megyn Kelly said about Mark Levin, everyone always laughing at him at Fox News behind his back. That's true. He only has Life, Liberty, and Levin because of Sean Hannity's poll there. It's the only reason. He doesn't have good ratings at all. He keeps saying, I'm the most watched. Bro, you're a nighttime Sunday show or something, or like you're in this obscure time bracket because they need to do that so nobody can see how bad your ratings are. Like if you were to compete with other people, you would get crushed. He has like 20,000 of the prime age demo and viewerships. That's it. Everything else is boomer cons. And Greg Gutfeld, absolutely. If you like just compare Greg Gutfeld, who's in the middle of the night, like if you just compare him in the key demo, he crushes Mark Levin. Crushes.
He's under 50. Viva and I's Sunday show on Rumble gets more viewers and listeners than he does on Fox News. That's being broadcast involuntarily in grandpa's homes all across America. So bad. He's completely out of it. But like for Trump,
let's play.
Who gave him the idea? Let's do a special celebration for we're going to put like Hanukkah stuff behind Trump every other press conference, and we're going to have Mark Levin hugging him, saying he's the first Jewish president, first Israeli president. It's like right at a moment where that issue is radioactive with a large part of his base.
We had people when we were polling in the part of the poll, because we're always mixed mode, in the part of the poll where we will text you, and you can either take an interview peer to peer, where there's like an agent, could even be me, who goes back and forth with you, literally is talking to you through text, or you can just, and most people do this, where you can just text online. Just give me a link and I'll do it. And there's reasons why I actually prefer people to do that. It increases our response rates with certain people, but I'm not going to explain how we do it because screw everybody else. I'm not helping anybody. No young pollsters, no new pollsters. They're all a bunch of like interlopers and wannabes. They're part of my language, people. Yes. I'm giving you a heads up. They're all a bunch of dick riders who have done nothing but like ask me questions over the years, as if like, DM me. And I was always good to them. And I always responded to them, gave them a time of day when other people did not. And now it's very clear that a bunch of them are nothing but shills who are hoping to be right one time when I'm wrong, so they can try to be me. They're a bunch of wannabes and interlopers, and I'm not helping anybody anymore. So don't message me and ask me why your North Carolina numbers are off. Don't message me again and ask why I have Spanberger plus 11 and you have Spanberger plus 3. What are you doing wrong? I'm not fucking helping you anymore. You're going to fucking fall on your face because I'm not there to tell you what you did wrong with your poll, and I'm going to laugh at you when you do. Here's Mark Levin's ratings, by the way. Oh, when we were doing those interviews and we're sending those invites to take the survey, people were sending, bro, not one, not two. We got like 100 responses of people sending us memes of Donald Trump with like curls, like a rabbi. Like they were eviscerating Donald Trump after that little Hanukkah party or whatever you want to call it. Like people don't like Mark Levin. They don't like him. He's not a likable guy. I mean, that was the worst optic thing to do.
There's a lot of confession through projection going on with him, but it's just Trump's team being utterly out of touch and in BoomerCon, Fox News, Sean Hannity world, that they think any of this is popular, and they're just reinforcing it with, I mean, like coming out and saying, be great to reduce housing prices, but what about all the BoomerCons that have all their wealth tied up in it? That's not the messaging. Wrong messaging. BoomerCons have got everything they wanted. Enough.
27,000
with the BoomerCons. But we do have inside video footage of the GOP 2026 midterm campaign.
Wait. Yes. Wait.
We got to show you here. And this is also useful for people to understand. This is how young people perceive these kind of foreign conflicts the way they're being sold.
All right, let me get it because I wasn't ready for this, but let me get, because this is good. I don't know if I'll play the whole thing, guys, but you'll get.
Yeah, you just play the first minute or so.
Yeah, you'll get the idea. All right, here we go. Check it out. Early. Here we go.
America, fuck yeah! Coming again the second motherfucking day, yeah! America, fuck yeah! Freedom is the only way, yeah! Terrorists, your game is through, 'cause now you have to answer to America, fuck yeah! So lick my blood and suck on my America, fuck yeah! What you gonna do when we come for you now?
Accidentally blowing up the Eiffel Tower.
I had it ended there with that last
That's
one.
good. I mean, they don't understand like FAFO, bro. This is how young people they don't see that as, oh yeah, bro, I'm ready. They don't feel my. They're like, what the heck is this? Is some BoomerCon slop. I didn't vote for Trump for this crap. This is how these voters perceive it, and you can disagree with them, but you can't keep pretending that isn't what they believe.
Which is why you're losing. I mean, the evidence is not. Look, the polls, are some of them always going to exaggerate shit for Trump? Yeah. All right. Are they going to take advantage of how bad it is with young voters and give you like ridiculous 75-25 margins? Yes. But is it real? Not those margins. But
it's directionally correct.
It's directionally correct. Exactly. And believe me, I was right in 2016. I was right in 2018. I was right in 2020 when you didn't want me to be, by the way. We can go down the list. And I was even right in 22. I don't know what the fuck everyone's talking about, right? Like I think you're mistaken.
You got exactly what the generic ballot gap would
be. Exactly. I mean,
the issues that were highlighted, and they just lost a lot of close Senate races. But
yes.
That key young populist OG MAGA vote was not bought into the Republican brand. And now they're jumping off the Trump version of the Republican brand,
it's not
which
my
is a
fault
total disaster.
Redistricting. It's not my fault you suck at redistricting and you can somehow win the national popular vote and lose lose Senate races all over the country and barely win the House.
A campaign slogan? Can you a campaign slogan of the Democrats 2026? We want to focus on your health care and affordability.
Oh my God.
And housing. And Donald Trump only cares about foreign conflicts and spending lots of money to help his billionaire pals.
And Bibi, they're going to put Bibi on campaign ads in Israel.
Exactly. He works for Israel. He works for billionaires. He works for big oil. He works for foreign adventures.
Yep.
We only care about you, the American people. He says it's a hoax that you're even suffering an affordability crisis. Again, do I think they're all full of it? Yes. Doesn't matter. Will that resonate with the normie, independent, skeptical voter? Yes.
It already is. Again, they have 44% support in January of the election year already. All right, it's bad. All right, you want to get to the questions here? Max, by the way, I try to tell everybody, when they join, members, I gotta be. Laura's right. I gotta be better at that. Like when somebody joins and is a member, you gotta say thank you. Like it's what it comes down to.
Well, you would have had it for those people out there, part of people'spundit.locals.com. You get the polls before everybody else. You get the inside intel. And you get one of my favorite new series, Road Rage with Rich.
You like that?
Road Rage with Rich. It's great.
Did you see my
driving by, tries to clip him? Hey, you can see Laura try to calm him down, keep the little Italian from getting out and beating him up. It's beautiful.
I was going to drop that guy. I'm probably going to drop somebody live on camera once. It's going to be fun.
You can see it live, everybody. Road Rage with Rich. People'spundit.locals.com.
I'm going to make sure I can say it with self-defense, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
upon legal advice, upon advice of counsel, as Hunter Thompson used to say. I took 2 shots of mescaline and 1 of LSD.
It's going to be great. That McDonald's one, I said that. I mean, I perfectly set that up. Because they're always assholes, and I knew she was going to be nasty. And just one day, wouldn't it just be funny if somebody just pulled up to McDonald's that were nasty, and you were like, "I will take a large milkshake," and then as soon as they open the window to give it to you, you just throw it at them. How great would that be? Like, be a little bit nicer. It's not my fault. It's not my fault of where you are, what your day is like. Well, you don't know what my day was like. All right, so get over yourself. Is my home of Canada on the liberation list?
If we were going to invade, kidnap Corny. That's also a South Park film. Invade Canada.
Yeah. Oh my God!
Why not? They got more useful oil in Algeria, in Alberta, than there is right now available in the Venezuelan oil fields. Which, by the way, those that don't know, Maduro and Chavez have been lying for years about how much oil is really there. They have made these extravagant claims. They massively multiplied their reserves. People that have studied in the oil industry are like, we're not believing that that's actually oil you could ever really extract and use.
Only when they're in charge do you not believe those figures, apparently.
I know, exactly.
Right.
And before they were in charge, Venezuela's reserves were like 5% of what they claim they are. So just FYI, everybody, that all this great oil that's out there, it's not even clear that's true.
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, I would take Alberta in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, and Alberta wants to join.
I would take you guys. If you're in Alberta, I would take you guys in a heartbeat. I mean, again, I have myself certain imperialist tendencies if it is done correctly. But the problem is you have to be careful with anything that's like imperialist doctrine, because I don't have it with me right here, but for the love of God, this has been well documented. If I got bored and went and studied international relations, there is a point where expansion becomes more costly than it will bring in for revenues. So it has to be done right. It has to be incredibly thought out. And right now, unfortunately, I don't think we have a totality of the Republican Party smart enough to understand that. They've never read I don't think there's a single U.S. senator who's ever read Myths of Empire. Every time I bring it up to one of them, I'm doing it to humiliate them on purpose. I am. I'm like, hey, have you ever read, Tragedy of Great Power Politics? What's your favorite part? Hey, have you ever, read Jack Snyder's theory on factions and why it's so hard to course correct? What's your favorite?
The Rise and Fall of Great Empires by the
Rise and Fall.
The great Paul Kennedy. I studied under at Yale.
Yep.
All that. Yeah. Also in JD's argument, about the arrest warrant stuff, I was like, he was at Yale Law School, so they might have had a special class that said when the CIA does it, it's legal.
It's legal.
Since the CIA, basically, for those that don't know, Yale's created the CIA. I actually wrote about that when I was a freshman at Yale.
And they put CIA. They don't say the CIA. They say CIA. And if you'll ask them, they'll say, do you say the God? They even put it's CIA. When they created it at Yale, it was CIA country God. And it's wow, that says it all. That says it all.
Absolutely. I mean, if we took Canada, take Alberta, we got to go in. We got to deport everybody that lives in Toronto and some other places. Send them back to the UK. Let them go back to the Queen. And we'll bring Viva Fry in to be the interim president, the dictator of Canada, to free Canada, to lock up Trudeau, lock up all the bums.
Viva Franco.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I love it. So this is actually really interesting. There is not enough oil in the world to put a dent in the U.S. national debt. And honestly, as a matter of math, it's somewhere to start. It's more of like a, I don't want to say like a gesture, but like, yeah, kind of like a political gesture more than anything. But yeah, I mean, by the time they take the money that they're going to take for their profits and their revenues, what's left, is like not going to put a dent in it. That's true. But there are vast gold deposits in Venezuela as well.
Well,
It's
yeah, there's
currently
rare
under the
earths,
control.
etc. But
Yeah.
you really need. I mean, we worked with the wrong opposition. We worked with the old oligarchic opposition in Venezuela.
Yeah.
We didn't get tied to some of the more populist aspects of it. And the reason is because the corporatists want control, and they want to put the elites back in control, because the elites are, by the way, they're the ones profiting the most from various drug trafficking.
Of course.
It's elites that are anti-Maduro, by the way. This is why this happened in Panama, that you remove Noriega, drug supply doubled, because the oligarchic elites we were on the side of were the ones making the most money in those Panamanian banks. Miami was built on cocaine traffic. How do you think they built all those fancy buildings? You know who would know well about it? Dear Narco Marco.
I was just going to say, in fact, Marco Rubio, I'm sure, is privy to the real history here. And it's like
his brother-in-law brought them out of poverty and blue-collar status by being a pretend zoo animal dealer, and he was actually shipping massive amounts of
exotic animals or something, right?
Yeah, exotic animals. That's what it was. Exotic. It was exotic, all right. It was a risky kind of done.
It's exotic, and it turns you into an animal for sure. Yeah. Since grabbing a country's president is an invasion, next Democratic president wouldn't have to stop German forces from arresting DJT for tweets on U.S. soil. I mean, this is what honestly I'm really concerned about, because we already crossed so many Rubicons. Like there were people when I tweeted concerned about this, there are people who are like, oh, that's ridiculous, that's never gonna happen. You also thought it would be ridiculous for the government to arrest Donald Trump. You also thought it would be ridiculous for them to give him 91 felony counts. Like they will do anything for power. Anything.
And what makes it easier than you're just respecting a foreign nation's wishes?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the way they can pick. They don't have to deal with it. They don't have to deal with the responsibility for it, the accountability for it. And I remember a lot of people say, Barn, we got to protect our backyard. It's like, that's an interesting message. There's a question, actually, one of the super chats that asked this, which is a good way of putting it. But the other place would be, so China's sitting there and they're saying, oh, so you can keep outsiders out of your backyard, and you can invade places by just using your domestic legal authority.
Taiwan? Yeah. And
we're going to call that Formosa again.
Somebody could scoop up Bibi right now. He's a war criminal in like every nation but ours. What are you talking about? He's under indictment everywhere. He's charged with war crimes. Like this is nobody thought this through. Like Qatar could go get him right now. You know, I mean, I'm serious. Like it depends what they want to, how much
maybe a little concerned with how JD was trying to justify and explain. It was like, okay, so he's getting bad advice too. Yeah. About the policy impacts, how other countries are going to react, what the real intel on the ground is, what's really happening in the drug trade, what's really the case with the Venezuelan oil economy. It's because you have guys like Paul Singer, huge donors, who, by the way, started Russiagate to try to take Trump out, by the way.
I know. This is Paul Singer's like he's going to be rewarded with billions after he pulled his role in Russiagate, like the Russia hoax. And the people who have supported Donald Trump, including have gone to jail for him, are getting hung out to dry. So like you can't get mad for people looking at this and saying, for what was this all for? Like what was this all for? And it's like, that's another thing, like these idiots the clapping seals on Twitter, like, oh, you're not with Donald Trump anymore. Like, first of all, I'm with the American voter. I'm like an honest pollster is like the last true lobby for the American voter. There's nobody else. I have completely bought into the Gallup vision on this. That's why I do what I do. But it's funny. These assholes didn't go to jail. Like when they attack Bannon or they attack somebody, you didn't go to jail for Donald Trump. Steve Bannon went to jail for Donald Trump. You tweet on fucking X all day. Like, big deal. You're a nothing. You're a nobody. Like, that's it. Put yourself on the line. Put some skin in the game. You take the other side of the bet against Robert. Like, put something into it. You know, like they just sit on social media all day clapping like a bunch of seals, and then they never say sorry for being wrong, so horribly wrong, like they have been since the spring of last year. And we're where we are now because of it.
All the way back since COVID. I mean,
all the way back since COVID.
We
were
just
chameleons. Yeah.
Well, you remember that. We were very alone out there.
All the people
bashing us. You don't love Trump. You don't support Trump. You don't understand he has to do this. This is necessary to save the country. Da, da, da. Even Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon weren't initially on the right side of this. We were out by ourselves.
Admittedly, neither was Jack. And Jack and I
Jack was. Nobody was.
Yep.
Raheem Kassam. None of those guys were. And we were like, look, here's how this is going to work. Here's why it's going to be a disaster over time. We're still suffering the economic ramifications of those lockdowns.
To this day. People got injured by that vaccine. People died. And whatever. And again, those
by the way, if we're going to lock up a drug dealer, please make it Albert Bourla of Pfizer.
I know.
And please, could we not have another White House dinner with Bourla and Bill Gates as guests? Please, just for a year, maybe.
Does Waltz ending his campaign increase my odds running as a 30-year-old white, 30-year-old male, disabled, Asian, anti-war, tax the rich, populist Dem for Minnesota governor? You running for governor? Would you both be open to join my campaign and shape Minnesota in your image? Oh, man, you kind of took me off guard here. You know, I mean, obviously, I don't know who you are. We'd have to look in it, you know, but like, I don't like to work with campaigns anymore. Frankly, I'm just tired of being let down, Robert. You know, like I'm just
happy to support you in the court of public opinion for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll have to be selective of how we get involved, because if the administration doesn't change course, there's not much we could do to reverse what's going to happen in the midterms.
Yeah.
But we could help Morris in Kentucky, help the challenge to Cassidy in Kentucky, in Louisiana, help Paul Dans in South Carolina. That's probably where our focus, but I'm happy to support the court of public opinion. I want the guy in Iowa to win, despite the whole political machine coming in against him. There's a bunch of people who will champion the court of public opinion in terms of the limited bandwidth and resources. And we're trying to, we'll see if we can salvage it, you know, be up in D.C., talk to some people. Yeah. Before, all we had to do was give this to Charlie, and Charlie took care of all of it. It was God's gift in that respect. But, you know, we'll try to step into the gap for that, try to help people. We're going to spoon feed them good policies, spoon feed them good ideas, help understand the broader context so they know what's coming. Well, I mean, we predicted what would happen, though I will tell you, I was surprised at how low the approval was right out of the gate. I thought it would be in the 60s.
Me too.
You know, something like that. I knew that the numbers were bad, the environment was bad, but I didn't realize it was this bad. It's radioactive now for any foreign intervention.
I thought I was going to get. I thought I would get 2/3. Yeah, he took out Maduro. Big deal. Like that's what I thought, and I even tweeted it. I said I don't think anyone's going to really care that what comes next matters. And I was wrong.
I said to you the polling data, the Maduro's whether the people think he's guilty. Majority of Americans don't even think he's guilty. And most Democrats don't think he's guilty. And he's about to be tried in a Democratic jurisdiction where the mayor's already suggesting he's innocent.
Yeah, I was just going to say this.
Imagine the embarrassment if that guy gets acquitted.
Why didn't they charge him in Florida? Like, what were they thinking?
Because the deep state only trusts the sovereign district of New York these days. Back in the day, they could trust Florida, but they don't trust it anymore. They tried Noriega in Florida. If you tried Maduro in the southern district of Florida between the Cubans and Venezuelans, he was hung. You know, he was done. In fact, a prosecutor down there once told me, he said, Bobby, all I got to do is point to the flag, point to the defendant, and say convict. He said that's why he loved the southern district of Florida. It's like, okay, I get it. That was the prosecutor trying Snipes in Ocala, and he thought he was going to get the same thing. It's like, you realize you chose the per capita racial hatred city of America to try a black defendant, Wesley Snipes? And he just smiled and told me the Cuban Miami story. That's like, okay, I get it. We got a war. Let's roll.
Let me put it up, though. Let me put up what you were just talking about. I went to go do it, and I clicked the back button and booted myself, and which removed all of the things. But there we go. And the banners. Let me go to the banners and get rid of the thing that's up on the screen. But also, Povang, before I click off your thing, Barnes and I will be up your way at a dinner. We're both giving speeches at the Minnesota Republican Party. What you guys do, an annual Lincoln Reagan or something? Yeah, we're going to be doing that in March. So I know that's a far off time.
And there's some good populist people at the grassroots level all across the country who do get it, who are trying to get the message to their local candidates, their gubernatorial candidates, their state legislative candidates, their congressional candidates, trying to support good populist challengers, like whether it's him in Minnesota, whether it's the good challenger in Iowa, whether it's Morris in Kentucky or Dan's in South Carolina, or the people that are challenging Cali. So there's some really good challengers out there. But yeah, to this question, I mean, Richard's done extensive polling on jury trial voir dire preparation. Has been warning about the Candace Owens impact, that all she's got to do is get a couple of Tran-Tifa lefties on there who will say, oh, I know from Candace Owens it's totally
or
fake.
Q-tards on the right. Or
exactly, a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
And by the way, that always works a dual way. I was warning this to the Jones camp, that by pushing the QAnon fake narrative about Venezuela, it's like what Candace is doing. If Candace turns out to be completely full of it, they get to torch somebody who is a critic of the system. Right? Yeah. They get them to self-discredit. Same thing with Jones. At the outgate, they get his audience distracted from the real investigation of what's going on in Venezuela. And when it turns out to be all bogus, they get the added bonus. This is Richard's point about the whole neocon establishment. They get the added bonus of discrediting a key critic, of discrediting a key ideology, a key politician or press personality. And what that poll showed is right now only 40% think he should be convicted. And it's even lower amongst if you did the Southern District of New York jury poll, majority of them, my guess is that his current conviction rate, anticipation rate in the SDNY is less than 20% in terms of what the public opinion says. And that means odds of him getting acquitted are real. Noriega never had a chance. His defense that he wasn't allowed to say at all in court was, yeah, I'm a big drug dealer for the CIA. I have been since 1968. I helped kill that leader for you. Come on, I killed the Panamanian elected official for you. Had him die in a little airplane crash. Yeah, that's what he wanted to tell me. Poppy Bush put me on the payroll, and he's the guy that brought me here. Yeah. They said, nope, you can't talk about that. That's completely excluded.
He couldn't even defend himself.
Maduro is going to have a clearly real defense, because clear, if you read the indictment, they have no real smoking gun. It's more like, well, about 5 to 7% of all the cocaine supply in the world comes through Venezuela.
It was so weak. It was so weak.
We think there's some people that maybe took bribes along the way, but not even a money laundering charge. So they're like, okay, you're not alleging he produced it. You're not alleging he himself distributed it. You're not even alleging he took money from the drugs distribution itself. Yeah. You're just saying there's people in his military. And then my favorite part was bring back the cartel of the sun without telling people what its history was.
You guys got to read
CIA creation in Venezuela that dated all the way actually back to the 1960s. That's why Frank Lucas disappeared to Venezuela, because Venezuela was the intermediary for the Marseille connection. The drugs from Venezuela. Venezuela was much more of a use. This is one of the things Maduro will be able to point out. Drug distribution, according to U.S. government data, more drugs were coming through Venezuela before Chavez and Maduro than during Chavez and Maduro. So, I mean, imagine an acquittal. Oh, can you imagine the PR fallout from that? They have a judge that will help fix the case for them, longtime deep state guy. That's why they chose SDNY. They were worried that one of these libertarian judges in South Florida might go off the rails.
Might say, where are the dates?
Yeah, where's the actual evidence, by the way?
Yeah, because like guys, if you don't know, like an indictment like this would come out against like a mobster or somebody, and they would say on or around such and such date, so and so met with so and so, and they for the purpose of exchanging X amount of drugs for to traffic into the United States, whatever. There is none of that in there. This is like, since this date, he has conspired to do that. I mean, it's just, I read it and I was floored. I've been like, this can't be real. They have to have something real. This can't be real. And there's nothing real in there. It's just like, this is what we say he did. We don't have any dates and times or other people that aren't under indictment to corroborate it. It's very flimsy. I mean, I cannot believe it. And in a district like that, like you said, the mayor's already basically saying this was like an illegal snatch and grab, and there will just be some fanatics, ideological broken districts, that will want to say not guilty to embarrass Donald Trump. It's that simple. It really is that simple.
I mean, there's already that risk with Luigi.
Yeah.
And so I mean, this could, what a disaster that would be. That told me they hadn't thought it through. And the prosecutor bringing Jay Clayton, the big deep state guy. That's why the Senate had no problem approving him to be SDNY U.S. attorney. This guy is a deep, deep state guy.
You always know that, don't you? By the
yes.
confirmations, you always know that, whether or not they're true believers or they're honest brokers, because the Senate will block you if you are, and that's how this goes.
By the way, it was a sign to me that Ratcliffe had turned rat, was that he got very little pushback in the Senate going through his nomination.
That's true.
Uh-oh, that's trouble.
I took it because he was DNI already, and but I mean, there's just, I don't know. This is like a different John Ratcliffe than the John from the first administration and from Congress, for that matter. I mean, he was like,
smell power. It's like Mike Pompeo. It looks like Mike Pompeo looks like he's an HIV victim.
I was just going to say it out loud. I was going to say it. Mike looks like he's dying of AIDS, bro.
That's what happens when you hang out with Lindsey Graham too much.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. I mean, look, I'm not kidding. When I saw that video, first of all, I noticed two things. One, that he kept prefacing anti-Semite with anti-Zionist. So if you're not a Zionist, you are an anti-Semite, all right? Which is why I think Tucker's given that crowd an entire big middle finger when he has people like Ian Carroll on, and he has Nick Fuentes on. It's not that he even is like that. It's just that Tucker has come to the conclusion, for people who don't understand why Tucker's doing what he's doing, it's not because he's taking money from Qatar. Tucker is loaded. He doesn't need $1 from Qatar, and that is all a smear that he should frankly sue these people for. I don't know why he doesn't, but he should. He should sue all of the the so-called Zionist so-called Christians and the Israel First crowd for calling him that, because it's false, and everyone knows it's false when they're saying it. So they know it is false, and they're still defaming him. But in any event, what's really happening here with Tucker is that he came to the conclusion sometime back that you can't really have a debate with them, because either it's you are a Zionist and Israel's going to eliminate the people of Gaza, and not just the end of Gaza. I really strongly suggest you all look up the Greater Israel Project and what all these wars in the Middle East is really all for, because that is the truth. And you can't even debate the wiseness of the policy. Otherwise, you are an anti-Semite. So Tucker came to that conclusion because he was like being a naive kid who's from, the CIA world, and his parents, whatnot, and who they are. And he was thinking that they were, honest brokers who could have a real debate. And he foolishly believed that. And he found out quick that that's just not true. If you don't give them what they want, you are an anti-Semite, period. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to debate the soundness, the wisdom of the policy. You're not giving them what they want. So you're a Jew hater. End of story. And even though after that attack with Mark Levine, you see him attack my parents. Did you see that? He attacked my parents. Like, this is the kind of sickness that lives inside of these people, right? That is now the second time Mark Levin has suggested that I am an anti-Semite because I'm European bloodline. That is now the second time he has accused me alone. I don't know if he's done it to anybody else, of having anti-Semitism in my DNA because I am a European. That is he's a racist. End of story. Like, that is a textbook definition of a racist, that I'm not capable of my own thoughts. I have something in my DNA that makes me a certain way. When did that become okay to say out loud in society? Like, he is
a blood libel. It's a reverse blood libel.
Supremacist. It's a reverse blood libel. It's exactly right. He's a Jewish supremacist. That is what he is. I mean, this is crazy. And Sean Hannity, frankly, man, what Megyn Kelly said about them all laughing at him behind his back is true. And I know from multiple, it's funny, I'm in a chat with Poso and with Mitchell, and we all had separate sources who told us to this day, they still do it. And they make fun of him to this day, and they all tell Hannity, like, why do you have this guy on? Why do you back this guy so much? He's not popular. He's not good television. Nobody wants to see a fat, smelly, bald old man screaming into the camera and calling everybody isms and ists and this and that, and his ratings suck. I just put him up on the screen. Nobody wants to see that. And Hannity, they'll like to this day still say, like, why do you do this? Like, why do you do it? And I hate to tell you guys, but like, he's got 7.5 million followers. I have less than 400,000. I ratioed the shit out of him. Everybody ratioed the shit. Half his followers are dead. The other, like a quarter of them are fake, because everybody knows that cable news networks buy fake followers for their hosts and their anchors. All right. Before, when
that's
it was,
why they get so little interaction.
That's why
on
they
their
get nothing.
tweets.
Yes.
Like even the bot farms in India don't even bother with their accounts, even though they're supposed to, even though their list is forward. To this question, it was great watching Starmer in the UK and Europe all stumble because their moral superiority complex.
Yeah.
And one of the reporters was like,
Good
okay,
question.
you said you're against invading a foreign nation, and you're against this. And to the question, doesn't this validate Russia's approach to Ukraine?
Rocket Boy's got a brain.
Since it's in their backyard? Yes, it does. Doesn't this green light, if Putin wants to take out Zelensky, he can? He sure heck looks like it. And Starmer was like, well, we don't know yet because it's all in progress. And she's like, invading the country and seizing their president is already finished, in case you haven't found out. He's like, well, it's still in progress.
Humiliating, bro. Just totally humiliating. But congratulations, Rocket Boy. You can think for yourself. I'm serious. I mean, like, that's a rare thing these days. Like, we get looped up, especially war propaganda. It's the worst. It's the strongest, like one of the strongest forms of persuasion. So, yeah. And honestly, especially after they just tried to kill Putin, I mean, I can't believe the restraint that Putin has shown. Like, if I was Vladimir Putin, I would have leveled Kiev already. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I would have leveled.
As we explained at the very beginning of that conflict, the global caricature, the Western caricature, I should say Western, really it's not global, of Putin was completely in error. That he had a deep level of support, that where his support came from was all the achievements he'd had for working class people. He'd actually delivered on his promises and built up an effective political machine. That's why we said Russia would not collapse economically. No. He would not collapse politically. There would be no regime change.
That's but another people thing, underappreciate. That's another thing we were right about. And
completely right. You go back and look at what we said would happen politically in the Iran conflict and happened. What we said would happen if Israel tried to raise Gaza to the ground. Politically, that's exactly what happened. If anything, we understated how severe and how fast the collapse was and how radioactive Israel would become politically. But we got everything right on COVID, got everything right on Ukraine. So the times we have disputed the wisdom of a particular Trump strategy, we have been right. We have not yet been wrong. Maybe we keep flooding into on any of those aspects. The only time I've been wrong is when I understated the degree of opposition and problems for Republicans. I've never been wrong, frankly, overstating it. So we were right throughout the whole Trump-DeSantis primary structure, when a lot of these so-called Trump supporters were out there bashing Trump and they were attacking Richard on a daily basis. I mean, personally, his polling, his career, and all the rest. They attack me, but it's like, get in line. You got to get in line by the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ. There's a long line of people. There's some billionaires in that list. That's a long line, bro, and it's going to take a while for you to get to it, for people who would like to see my demise. But the absolutely right that in terms of the policy consequences and ramification. And and this is a good question about
it is.
What happens in the realignment. And I agree with you. Increasingly, these people you're already starting to see it. You're going to start to see a decline of the use of the phrase MAGA. Yeah. And it's going to start, instead it's going to be America first. Yeah. And they have a very specific meaning and understanding of that.
MAGA's been co-opted and they know it. They know it. It's like they instinctively know it, even if they're not like shrewdly following politics on a daily basis. They understand that MAGA has been polluted. It's been perverted now. So like you're going to have to find a different, for like the America First Coalition, something like that. And that's actually something we're working on right now, because if you want to be successful in 28, if this continues, if you want to be successful in 28, you're going to have to run away from MAGA. The MAGA identification is collapsing. I remember when during Trump versus DeSantis, MAGA was up in the 60s. I remember it. I remember even just recently when Trump took office, before the bombing of Iran is when this really happened. Before the bombing of Iran, they were totally dominant and growing more dominant every day. Now they're less than 50%. And traditional Republican, that's the one difference between us and others. I think it was the Washington Post or it was at ABC. They had like traditional Republican rising way more than we did. They're still stuck at like 35. They all just went to unsure. Like, we're just not sure. I think traditional Republican probably gained like 3 or 5 points, but nothing huge. It's just that MAGA has collapsed and unsure is growing to like 1/5 of the Republican electorate now. So, I mean, you're killing your own brand. You're killing your own brand. It's unbelievable. And by the way, about being right about how toxic Israel would be, look at the nation index for 2025. It's not that Israel came in last again. They came in last the year before for the first time. It's how far they fell on the index. Historic. The index had 3-decade-long history. It was the biggest drop for any nation ever. And who did it? Gen Z. They completely abandoned them. Even right-wing Western voters completely abandoned them. It's everything we said it would be. And you know what? You don't want to have a debate with people. That's where you end up. So you may think you're winning right now, but you will have no political support in the West very soon. Very soon. I mean, it should have been 10 years from now. You should have had like 10 years to chip away at your Greater Israel project. Now you got to get it done this year before Donald Trump is totally a lame duck, or else you're finished. You are. And the world is waiting. Oh my God, they are waiting, and they will get their opportunity with the President AOC, boy, and that'll be the end of all of you. I'm serious. Like, this is what you did to yourself for not listening. It's not because anyone's a Jew hater. It's because you went scorched earth on everybody because people dared to say, what about me for once? How dare you? Now, at this point, whatever you get, you got coming. I don't know what to say. I mean, that's it.
Well, that's a perfect to the last question. Is the term MAGA becoming over? The answer is increasingly that's the trend. If Trump doesn't find a way to reverse course over 2026, MAGA will become second. It'll be the people will want something other than MAGA because it's so affiliated with Trump personally, that label. That you'll see like America First. You're already starting to see it. You're seeing people that are in the promotional space. Their merch no longer says MAGA, says America First instead.
Says America First. Yeah. There's two more. He said they don't understand. I gave an Uber ride to a Trump voter who is upset and now advocating for a French-style revolution. This guy sound right-wing. This is what Mitchell and I and Barnes have been saying. Like, these younger people don't call themselves conservative. Trump won in the most moderate electorate since 1992. These people want like a Franco to come along and just wreck everything, not become the oligarchy, to destroy the oligarchy.
Not
wreck it here.
Everywhere else around the world.
Not everywhere else.
They want this. They want the oligarchs in prison. They want the corrupt government officials in prison. They want the corrupt Democrats in prison. They want to see Trump versus the Fed. Trump versus big pharma. Trump versus big oil. Trump versus big ag. Trump versus big tech. Not in bed with big tech.
These people, they committed crimes against humanity. They killed people with bad COVID policy. We are almost $40 trillion in debt, and they can't afford a car, a home. Fuck that, man. They can't afford to pay their electric bill if they're lucky enough to rent an apartment. Look at the damn numbers. Look at the data. It's horrible. And sitting there and tracking GDP is ridiculous. They don't give a shit about that.
That's the stock market?
I know the stock market.
It's like 10% of the people own almost all the stock market.
People are
half of America has nothing in the stock market.
Half of America who works in the private sector doesn't even have access to a working retirement plan. What are you talking about? It's ridiculous. And I've given them these stats before. I was like, don't you have an advisor who's smart enough to show you these numbers or smart enough to know where to look for them? You're touting a stock market. That's the Democratic voting base. What are you talking about? Most of the country doesn't have shit in the stock market. Oh my God. It's unbelievable. I don't understand. The markets are doing so well. Holy God. I just can't. Levin was a CIA minder to keep Limbaugh from calling for action. Yeah, he created enough problems by waking up people that led to 94 when ours had to rule. That's the thing with the Republican Party. They're really good at being opposition when it's like Democrats run everything into the ground, but they're the dog who chased and caught the bus. Once they get it, they don't know what the hell to do with it anymore. You can't keep running like you're the opposition when you're actually the one in power. Making more promises will not. I hope that's not their plan, Robert. Because everything I hear, it's like, what's the strategy? And Mitchell when he went to the White House, he got to sit in on he went to go meet with the the GOP people, and they had their like weekly call, their action call, and what the plan was going to be. And they had just gotten wrecked in all those races. And they were like, yeah, we knew we were going to have some problems with the low prop party now. But, you know, come the midterms, we're going to have the president out there. He's going to be helping. And, you know, we're going to say we're going to do this. We're going to say we're going to do that. And Mark is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Do it. Just do it. You're in power now. Why would they elect you again to do something you could do right now? Do you not understand how stupid that is? You are the incumbent party, and they're looking at him like they're fucking retards who don't know how to read and write anymore. Like, I'm sorry, my name's Corky and I'm retarded. Like, what the dude? It's not hard. This is not difficult. The truth is, they're not that smart, and they're corrupt. And that's the truth. That's the bottom line. What prevents Republicans from doing what they say they're going to do when they're in office? They're corrupt and they're lying. A third of them are corrupt at least. The other third's scared shitless. And the other third is just stupid. They're retarded. So they don't know which way to go. Like, so this is why. And then Democrats get in office, and Democrats use their first 9 months, even if it's unpopular, they use their first 9 months to push huge sweeping legislation that changes things forever. And then Republicans get in and they think they're winning by an executive order that the next president's going to erase on day one.
Yeah, well, they learned from the New Deal. They learned from from LBJ.
That's right.
The Great Society, that you have to do massive institutional reform right out of the gate. This was Elon Musk's point about Doge.
It was.
Susie Wiles didn't understand. He's like, no, you've got to burn this to the ground, and then you can rebuild it if necessary. But you cannot go in saying, well, let's be careful. Let's nitpick here. Let's use a little scissors here, a little cut here, a little cut there. By golly, how is it that Wiles stinks? God, take the bait. Even JD, you could tell in the photos, he was like, I'm not so sure about doing a Vanity Fair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, what was one of the things he said? Oh, don't worry, we can't invade and take Maduro because that's illegal. We would have to have a congressional.
Oh, my God, that's actually in there. Oh, my God. I forgot about that. Oh, my God.
And then they keep screwing up the Epstein files. Like, please just release them and deal with it.
Have to dump them, Robert.
Yeah, just dump them. Dump them.
Yeah.
Instead, let's redact 99 pages in a row.
So Democrats can show people what's under that black writing. You know what I mean? It's
exactly. And then Democrats can put out fake photos that are generic photos, redact them, and people think, oh, that looks scary of Trump. I mean, Trump has created this problem himself. And they keep digging deeper. They keep digging themselves into a deeper hole. They're going to let this be one of the issues that dominates for the next 9 months. And especially, can you imagine, say, hey, we reviewed all the files and there's nothing to see here. And we were both like, probably not true. But they hadn't even reviewed the files. They just discovered 5 million more documents after just discovering 1 million documents before that. They look like the gang that can't shoot straight.
So it's funny, people are saying, we're interested to see our take in Minnesota. I'm just going through the locals ones real quick.
Walsh made the right decision. He doesn't want there to be 6 more months of investigations about how crazy corrupt that guy is. I mean, the media completely dropped the guy that murdered those people who said, Walsh told me to do it. I mean, if the person that accused Trump of that, it would have been nonstop nightly news for a year. But now you get the Somali corruption, which involves the CIA. It involves all these intel. That's why they took the Haitians and put them in Springfield. It was meant, Obama helped create it, but it was continued even under Trump because he didn't control the administrative state. They were still doing it. But there's but that goes back to the CIA. We recruited some of the most lunatic, fraudulent portions of the Somali side that lost the Civil War that we helped precipitate. Yep. I mean, we bombed them, 3 times to start the new year? We're still bombing Somalia for 30 years later, we're still bombing Somalia.
America.
Ever since Black Hawk Down, we're still bombing them somehow. And Israel is trying to steal Somaliland at the top.
Just
make that war even more. But it's smart on Walsh to step down. He realized this is only going to get worse. God forbid they dig into some of his activities and his school gym teacher, you might say. You got those
He
problems.
looks like it, doesn't he? Though, doesn't he?
Oh,
just
he
look
absolutely
like it?
does. He looks
Come on.
like Sandusky. Hey, 10-year-old, let's have a little shower together. You know what I mean? He just
yeah.
gives that vibe off. Put it this way, no way you meet that guy, and when he's going to babysit your kids, you're like, no
chance.
Go home, please go. So it's smart on. See, this is where Democrats are smart.
Look at the memes, bro. They're so bad. He's just getting clobbered in the memes in the chat. It's like, I just kidnapped Maduro and his wife. What'd he say? I don't know. Something about being Netanyahu's bitch.
And that's what you're going to see tons of. I mean, you're going to see a lot of the big meme makers are some of the people that are most agitated at Trump at the moment because they represent the zeitgeist of that moment. And they represent it better than Steven Crowder or even Salty Cracker and these others that are not as much immersed in the geopolitics or understand that these people have developed a crash course in geopolitics because they've seen all the failed wars and failed foreign interventions. Yeah. So you can't sell them on machismo. You can't sell them on uber patriotism, requiring that they once again dedicate their wealth, their resources, and risk their lives for some foreign nation, foreign cause, foreign politician, foreign issue. They ain't buying. There's no sales pitch you can make to them in the world by which they will buy it. And until and unless they realize that in Washington, D.C., they're going to keep putting their coalition up in flames.
This is a comment from somebody who absolutely represents part of the coalition that we were talking about. He said, I was just going to sit this one out this fall, but at this point, I'll go out of my way to vote for Assoff. He's got, obviously, he's in Georgia, which is going to be a competitive seat. Or, well, it was supposed to be, but it won't be now.
It was going to be.
Yeah. At least he's given lip service to do something about the corporations that own 1/3 of all the homes in the metro Atlanta area. Voted for Trump twice, but at this point, he probably deserves an impeachment, if for anything, betraying his base and promises. When you meet with the talking heads at the next, drive this message home for them. Oh, I will. And I will say this about I will say this, for a minute there, it looked like Susie was making a real effort, but they just get distracted because I think it's like one thing to try to understand the voters. It's another thing to have the capacity to, because you're not part of that world and you were never part of that world. And it's like, she's from a very privileged, so she thinks with all this other stuff going on, okay, it's not that big of a deal. We could just put it on the back burner. And it's a political miscalculation is not even good enough to describe it. It's really, really bad. And there's another, like Andrew says, but Robert and Rich, you don't understand. Trump is MAGA. He can do whatever he wants. Exactly. I mean, he's mocking that. There are these people who think that, and that is ridiculous. There's 35% of the party that's like that. And that's not including the independents. I mean, that's the independents we just showed you. I mean, people can argue all they want. You're arguing with numbers. You're arguing a point that is wrong. And if you don't, that you have already, I mean, how much more evidence you need? You got your asses kicked all over the place last year. It's not just because, our voters don't come out. Your voters are disaffected. It was a choice. There were real plans and real ways to make this a higher propensity coalition, to deliver ridiculous numbers in the midterm. So Democrats could never win again. This could have been a Roosevelt 30-year rule, and you fucked it up. That's it. There's no other way.
Imagine if, because it's clear that, I mean, we'll be talking.
Or you're fucking it up. You're fucking it up. You could. I still think it's possible to fix it. I'm an optimist.
Yeah, the time is ticking, and it needs to be a hard turn, and it needs to come fast. It's part of the message we'll have up there, and we'll give them specific policy ideas that can help move the needle. Simple ones, things they can take just as the executive action, as well as proposed legislation. But I mean, what they're on pace for people to understand, this may be worse than 2006, especially if they're all banking that the economy for real people is going to boom in 2026 when everything voters are reporting. And even if you look at the Fed's manufacturing index, you look at the non-manufacturing services index, you look at a wide range of economic inputs, and they are screaming. You look at the repo markets, you look at the overnight financial markets and what the Fed's having to do, injecting cash every other second, stories of this bank possibly going bust, that bank going bust. What happens if we get a deep recession in 2026.
Yeah.
Then
Robert,
then you have full-blown shit show.
November of 2018, the economy was rocking.
Exactly.
I don't know where people get this idea that the economy will just fix everything. That's wrong. That's bullshit. It's total bullshit. First of all, even if it was true, you're still excluding the entire part of your coalition that was really about accountability, really about raising everything to the ground. It was really about, putting America first, right? They don't want to see anything. It doesn't matter if it's a quick in and out. They don't want to see it. They don't care. Like, everyone knows Netanyahu's a liar, dude. Nobody wanted to take, after it wasn't just those strikes. It's verifiable, guys. What I'm arguing is not, again, it's not up for debate. You can go to the public website for the White House schedule. Once those strikes happened, it was all Iran from almost an entire month. It was all Iran, all Middle East. There was not a single domestic thing on the president's agenda. It entangles you. That's how this town works. And it's like, sure, I'd love to see you walk and chew gum at the same time, but you'd be the first one to do it, including Trump's own presidency. You'd be the first one to do it in our lifetime. Like, in our lifetime, there's nobody else who did. You pick one or you pick the other. And he's very clearly now, I don't know how much the public knows, but he's very clearly now talking about next steps, which nation is next. Iran, how long before Cuba falls? He's got
that was Rocket Boy's question. Well, what's the odds we go into Cuba? So there's now we had always agreed, that was then the Soviet Union, obviously, so different dynamic. With Russia, we would not go into Cuba. And in exchange, they would withdraw their missiles from Cuba, and we would withdraw our missiles from Turkey. Will that hold? I don't know. Are the wars going to be enough for third parties to get some traction? Well, here's my prediction. Look, America and the UK tend to trend together, right? Even like they have sort of Jimmy Carter style moderate liberalism. Harold Wilson in the UK. Ronald Reagan, big conservative, brash brand. Margaret Thatcher in the UK right before it. The Poppy Bush style politics. John Major in the UK. The rise of a Bill Clinton neoliberal statist centrist working with the finance sectors. Tony Blair in the UK. The rise of Donald Trump. Brexit in the UK. What's happening right now in the UK? Next election, the Tories won't exist. And the Labour Party won't exist. They're done. Two parties that dominated for more than a century. That should be also a big warning sign to Washington that just because they've always got away with this duopoly, doesn't mean it's always going to be the case. If they don't deliver for the American people and this new independent voter, and we know Democrats won't, they're not constitutionally capable of in the current construct that they exist in, then yes, you could really start to see a rise of a new third party. Probably take several elections to develop the momentum, but you could absolutely see that coming to the U.S. in ways we haven't. And before, whenever people are really unhappy in the U.S.,
during which Democrats will win big.
Oh, correct. That's the other side effect. Yeah. So you look at historically when when people are real unhappy, third parties do surge in the U.S. Whether it's the Republican Party during the abolition debates of the 1850s, whether it's the Populist Party of the 1890s, whether it's Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose movement, along with Bob La Follette's progressive movement, along with what's his name? I think Sinclair. On the Socialist Party, he was even getting 5-6%. Yeah, like people want to look. There's some southern counties that voted for the Socialist Party. They were some of the biggest pro-Trump trending counties.
What's his
probably
name?
good to remember that, even though a century ago. Wynn Parish, Louisiana, the heart of the Long family, voted socialist back in the day. The Grundy County, my old coal mining right here in Appalachia, had voted for socialist back in the day. So that's where that can go. And then you get the Strom Thurmond movement in the 1940s, reflecting the divide in the Democratic Party in the Deep South. Then you get George Corley Wallace in 1968. Then you get Ross Perot in 1992.
Reform Party.
So very easily you could have a big third-party independent surge if the Republican Party continues to utterly ignore the new portion of the America First base,
which will again result in massive Democratic victories. Which is good. Look, even if that rise of a third party doesn't happen, guys, the fact of the matter is the only way that this below 45, especially crowd, is going to vote again will be if they fall for the false promise of left-wing populism, which always turns into Marxism, which all then turns into democide, right? So this is George Bush failed the Ross Perot. George W. Bush put the Ross Perot Reform Coalition back together into the Republican Party. When he failed them, it led to Barack Obama. And when Obama failed them, it led to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is it. If it does, what's next down the pike? AOC. Gavin Newsom's not going to win a Democratic primary, guys. A gay guy from Indiana is not going to win a Democratic primary. You have to get through the South, which they front-loaded now in their nomination process. You have to get through the Hispanic, the Black and Hispanic South. 45% of a primary, a Democratic nomination, will be non-white. It will be AOC or somebody like that.
By the way, very populist. And if you haven't seen the underlying data, look at black voters' approval of Venezuela.
Yeah.
Very anti-war. Historically, the neoliberal establishment has co-opted the party. They're about to get crushed by all of this.
Yeah.
So I think you combine it. Then to the last question, never ask a woman her age, never ask a man his salary, and never ask Israel for evidence.
We're back. We're back now to BB saying they could have it again with it, dude. You just bombed.
Go back into Iran. They're just about to have nuclear weapons, Mr. President.
God,
you know how humiliating that would be for Trump?
Liar.
Trump goes around, tells everybody, I took it out. It's abolished for years. It was amazing and extraordinary. You have to go right back in. It tells the world you lied. It tells the world you're a failure. It tells the world you're BB's bitch. Yeah. So, I mean, Trump cannot go down that path and expect to survive. Otherwise, he will look like, if he governs like the Bushes, he'll end up like
including the legacy. His legacy and his family will still be here when he's not. He needs to start thinking about this. All right. And the next time, by the way, they come after him, maybe they won't be so nice. They'll go after, some of his family members. And this is becoming a Bush. You tried this already, Mr. President. You tried this. You listened to your son-in-law at the end of your first term. He told you don't do, even when John Ratcliffe wanted you to go balls, which is crazy. No wonder John's where he is. Actually, Robert, if you think about it, because toward the end of the first administration, John was like, if you don't do this, the Chinese are basically going to take over the country. Like, you have to do this. They will remove you and insert Joe Biden. And he didn't listen because his son-in-law told him that if you play nice, they'll play nice with you when you get out. Well, they didn't. So what do they, I don't know what this Nixonian hang up is with him. Like, he wants to be accepted by a group of people who will never, ever accept him because he's already committed the cardinal sin, the grave sin in their mind of being a class betrayer. And no matter what he does now, he will never get accepted back into the socialite fold. He'll never get accepted back into the blob. It'll never happen. So just do what you were elected to do. Like, this is a no-brainer. I just don't know.
Agreed. As we wrap takeaway message: the domestic political environment has no appetite for foreign military adventurism of any kind for the next year. If the Republicans are going to be serious, they need to shift to a laser focus on the domestic issues that they are most concerned about. And, in terms of legal accountability, in terms of food freedom, financial freedom, medical freedom, political freedom, improving their everyday way of life, real wages, measure everything going forward by how much are real wages growing, how much is real disposable income growing, how much do people think their job prospects are improving. Those are the metrics you should be focused on, and domestic economic and political needs, and create conflict, bring back the old Trump, the 2024 Trump brand as the underdog, as the outsider, as the anti-establishment guy. Find ways to pick fights with big ag, with big tech, with big business,
with your own party,
Wall Street.
With your own party. If you have,
exactly. With the lazy bums in the Republican Party. Quit going on golf trips and plane trips with Lady Lindsey Graham, queen of the war whores, who wants to invite us all into her permanent life brothel of blood. So there's some basic things he can do. There's basic things that Vance and other people can try to push for the administration to do. And then there's other ways to focus on it. But if it keeps down the current path, it's going to be a 2006 level bloodbath. And that ain't good for anybody on the populist right in terms of what it means for 2028. And so hopefully we get people's attention. If not, it is what it is. We did all that we could do.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm going to be expanding 1776 Law Center. We're going to expand into creating policies that can work at the county level, the city level, the state level, the local level, because that's probably where the real next revolution has got to come. We either got to take over the party at the grassroots or realize if the party's broken, start a new one. Whatever it is necessary to get the American people's interest and needs actually met or addressed, or at least them believing you're fighting for them. Not fighting for oligarchs, not fighting for big oil companies, not fighting for big donors, not fighting for foreign nations and foreign populations, but fighting for Americans in America on American issues. And that's what needs to come about if they're going to have they're going to mitigate what looks like an incoming bloodbath. Now, for all I will probably still make money on it over at sportspicks.locals.com. Had success, whether some portion of the Epstein files will be released, what the Fed would in fact cut, and they did, even when everybody said they wouldn't, because the underlying numbers are bad. That's why. Yeah. Despite what you're seeing from the propaganda, even the Fed knows it. That's why they're doing not QE as we speak. Back in the bond buying business. So you go to sportspicks.locals.com for all the predictions of elections. We'll have the Hungarian elections coming up. All of that, you can get the analysis there. And for all the other geopolitics and law and politics, that will be at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And if you want the inside information about the good polling data, including the often entertaining Road Rage with Rich, go to peopleshunt.locals.com. Will Rich throw a milkshake at the McDonald's person next week? It's better than the Trump reality TV show at the moment, which is, will we be in nuclear war next week? Tune in for the finale. I'm not a big fan of that side of the administration. Then support the big data poll if you want honest, accurate intel and information and data. So for yourself, but also to be able to share with others, whether they're running for state. I hear from a range of these people. They use Richard's data to help inform, I should run on this, I should campaign on that. It's the reason why the Kennedy-Trump Tulsi MAGA coalition even exists, was because you supported the big data poll, supported 1776 Law Center. We got that data to Charlie Kirk. Charlie got that data to the Trump team. Trump team recognized the wisdom of it, reached out and created a coalition with Kennedy. So you can make, don't be a doomer. Even if things are not the most white pill at the moment, there's always, if your opinion didn't matter, they wouldn't try to censor it or propagandize it as much as they do. And if your actions didn't matter, they wouldn't try to manipulate them to the degree that they do. You still matter. You carry the torch of the American Revolution and liberty in your heart and soul, and you can continue to make a difference at multiple levels of government, even if we might have to go left before we get to go right.
I got nothing else to add to that. I'll see you guys soon. We'll do this as, we'll give you guys an update on how everything goes, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, Robert, as always, brother. Later, guys. Gonna rock on out of here. Let's do it.